Good evening. This is the regular meeting of the Palo Alto Unified School District School Board. The date is March 28th, 2023. The board met in closed session, and the board took action in closed session to approve the anticipated claim on behalf of a special education student, case number PAUSD SC 2223.03, student name withheld to protect confidentiality of pupil records in the amount of $120,000. Good evening. Can I get an approval of the agenda order? Mr. Darup, I don't see, Mr. Darup, are you there?
Yep, I am.
Okay, Mr. Darup is on Zoom tonight, which means that we will be taking a roll call vote for anything that we have to vote for. But he is there and probably just off screen. Good evening, Mr. Darup. So can I get a motion to approve the agenda order?
I move that we approve the agenda order.
I second the motion.
Great, okay. All those in favor? Student board member preferential vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Darup?
Aye.
Ms. Siegel?
Aye.
Ms. Lettermark?
Aye.
Mr. Collins?
Aye.
And I too. Okay, we have an agenda order. Great. We are going to start with our student board member reports.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Daniel, and I'm here to, again, talk about gun activities. The last time we had a board meeting, Gun hosted its Spring Spirit Week. On Wednesday, Gun seniors faced off against the teachers, and unfortunately, the seniors did lose against the teachers because they hired Kevin Durant's cousin to play. He was super tall. He dunked on our team, which is very sad. But yeah, I participated, and I scored 0 points. But it doesn't matter because at the end of the week, we did have a holy party to celebrate the start of spring, where students played with the powder in our freshman quad. And I participated in it too, and it was very, very fun. Training-wise, Gun staff have received fentanyl training, where teachers now know how to use naloxone in case someone does show symptoms of overdose. Parents are also trained for how to approach and care for students with mental health concerns this Monday, I believe. On a better note, CASP testing for Gun was last week, and our participation was very, very high compared to last year. The participation rate is around 90 to 91%, almost 92%, which is a historic high for Gun in all of its years, ever since Gun started, which is very, very huge. So thanks to all the staff who did their job reaching out to the parents, and the junior representatives, Maya and Nathan, for reaching out to the juniors and giving them donuts and pizzas for participating. Gun Theater's High School Musical shows also included last week. I went on Wednesday, and it was very, very fun and entertaining. Everyone was very, very wonderful, and all of the performances were great. ASP election was also concluded, and we will have Chris Lee here as next year's Gun student board representative. However, the junior class president election did end in a tie, so runoff elections will start tomorrow. Coming up, Gun has neurodiversity celebration events throughout the entire week, including the signature Best Buddies event this Friday, where SEC students will pair up with neurodiverse students to light up lanterns and play different games. ASB appointed positions are also accepting applications and will end on April 10th. Prom ticket sales will also end on April 10th, as the dance itself will be on April 22nd. Our Gun sports have also been performing very well, including our spring sports, swim, golf, tennis, track and field, softball, and badminton. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Hello, everyone. I'm Johanna, and I'm the Pally board rep, if you don't know me. This is what Pally's been up to for the past couple weeks. So ASB started off last week with our traditional pajama day and cookies on the quad for Monday. During brunch, we distributed chocolate chip cookies and milk to students. We continued last week with planning for current and upcoming events, which includes our secondary election for our class senators and class reps, which are a newly added position that gives students a chance to join ASB without needing to enroll in the class, so it's a bit more inclusive. Our appointed application was released last Friday and will feature the new positions of athletic commissioner. Seniors are hosting their karaoke event this Thursday and preparing for our annual senior elimination game, which will begin after spring break. We are also selling our prom tickets and will begin our prom asking competition in April. For club events, Pally Price held their neurodiversity resource fair last Friday on the quad, where students could talk to different organizations like Alcove, Cassie, and Real about mental health and neurodiversity. The Pally Princess Project is continuing to accept prom dresses until this Friday for their prom dress drive, which will be from April 10th to 11th. So if you or any of your friends, neighbors, or family members have dresses to donate, please do. ASB is also hosting club visits through April for over 150 Pally clubs, where we go to clubs to check in, receive feedback, and inform them about club opportunities and new developments. Going into our arts, as Pally Theater closed out Mamma Mia with both weekends sold out, students are heading into their Thespian Festival on March 29th. And theater's also working on Hay Fever, a student-run black box production, which will be April 14th, 15th, and 16th, and hosting their one-act auditions this week. For Pally Instrumental, their Pops concert last Friday brought together the concert band, symphonic band, jazz band, and orchestra. I got the pleasure to attend and got to hear a variety of songs from both full groups and smaller ensembles. Some highlights include Pink Panther from concert band, Pixar themes from orchestra, and Star Trek from symphonic band. There was even a duo that played the Super Mario theme with mustaches and the Mario and Luigi hats, and a freshman ensemble that rickrolled the entire audience by playing Never Gonna Give You Up. Our social justice pathway has been active with their projects as well. As the Same Moon, Same Stars mural has been making progress over the past couple days in preparation for their April 24th reveal day at Pally. I saw the photos, they look absolutely amazing. SJP also has their diverse book raffle project, where students can read books centered around characters or authors of underrepresented races, cultures, or background, which also includes LGBTQIA+ representation and disability representation, and they'll have each book count towards a raffle. Overall, in Pally News, our site council met last Monday to discuss improvements to our peer tutoring center, and some of our publications held a production last week, which includes CMAG, Madrona, which is our yearbook, and Verde. Team hosted their student leader training last weekend to prepare for the team leaders to help at future events as well. We also had CASP testing for juniors amidst the rain and wind, and were successful in raising our participation to around 80%, which is wonderful. So shout out to the admin, teacher proctors, the staff, and of course our juniors for making this possible, even with all the drama going on with the weather. And while juniors were testing, other students had the opportunity to hear from career speakers in the Haymarket and in the PAC, as well as participate in different prime activities. Pally also hosted our first Ignite to Unite yesterday, where over 90 students from athletics, arts, academics, and activities came together for unity activities in our gym. The focus was on our student culture, and students discussed how they saw Pally culture on a scale from they used surviving to striving to thriving, which I thought was pretty interesting. Students also got to participate in spirit activities like practicing new cheers, creating a name for our student section, which they came up with the ship, like Viking ships, and even making a working smoke cannon that would like shoot out rings of smoke. It was so cool. I got to see videos of it. And the hope is that our next generation of Pally students, after the seniors graduate, they'll get to work towards a more engaging, unified, and supportive spirit culture. To end off, Pally ASB formally invites you as a Palo Alto community to join us for our International Night, which will be on Friday, April 14th, where booths with cultural presentations and food will be featured. I'm going to be running a booth, so you should definitely come by and learn more about the different cultures of our campus. So that's all from me. Thank you so much.
Has anyone ever told you guys there's a lot that goes on at your schools? And I'm sure you're missing some stuff, right? There's probably other stuff. Thank you both so much. Really appreciate it. Dr. Austin, Superintendent's report.
Yeah, thank you for that. Tonight, Mr. Bahadur Singh and I arm wrestled, and he won, so he's going to get to do, he's strong guy. Mr. Bahadur Singh is going to introduce some of our new hires, although several of them are not new to us. They are in new positions, which is something that we've invested very heavily in here with some great success. But we have some excited people here that we'd like to bring up, and then you'll be taking the formal action immediately following on the consent agenda. Mr. Bahadur Singh.
Thank you, Dr. Austin. As he mentioned, we recently announced the leadership transitions for the district for next school year. And tonight, we are proud to introduce them to our community. And we're going to start this evening with Peter Oth, who's the Director of Maintenance and Operations and Transportation for the district. The district is pleased to introduce him as our new Director of MOT, and he joined our team in February. Prior to PAUSD, he served as the manager of facilities and grounds at Santa Clara Unified School District, where he managed the oversight of project operations for the district that serves 16,000 students. Peter holds a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Studies and Forestry from State University of New York, an associate degree in Applied Science for Ornamental Horticulture, Landscape and Development from State University at Cobleskill, an associate degree of science in business administration from State University at New York at Onondaga Community College. Peter has a passion for innovation, sustainability, and finding practical ways to implement new ideas. Peter, would you like to say a couple words?
Can you go up to the mic so people at home can hear you?
So thank you for that. I'm very happy to be here. I've been over here for about a little over a month, and I can tell you that I've got an awesome support team. And there hasn't been a day in that month that I have not really looked forward to coming to work. Honest to God, there's a lot of cool stuff that we're going to be doing, and I'm hoping to just move forward with the positive stuff that we've already started. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Peter. Next up, Jim Sherman, who will be the principal at Palo Alto Adult School. He will be transitioning from the principal of Hoover over to the Palo Alto Adult School. He will be succeeding Dr. Tom Keating, who is retiring at the end of the 22-23 school year. Mr. Sherman has served at Hoover for the past 5 years, and prior to PAUSD, he served as a principal in the Evergreen School District. He holds a bachelor's degree in business administration and a master's degree in educational leadership and administration from San Jose State University. Mr. Sherman.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Board of Trustees, Superintendent Austin. Super exciting for me. Bittersweet to leave a school that I've called my family for so long, but it's an incredible opportunity. So I'm looking forward to the move to Palo Alto School, Adult School. I've received a really warm welcome from all of them. They've sent me a lot of messages, and so it's been really nice. Leading and working with that team of seasoned veterans and professionals is an amazing opportunity for me, and I thank all of you for your support. Like I said, a school community is a family, and our Hoover school community is definitely that. I feel really a tremendous part of that family. We're all invested in not just working with each other, but in helping everyone to feel connected and special. We're a diverse staff. We're strong individually. We have our own opinions on things, but as a team, we're united and focused. I'm so proud of our teachers and in awe of what they do for kids each day. I truly am. I am proud of the teachers and staff we've brought in since I've been there. Our school is stronger than ever and served our students and community so well. I love our staff, families, and especially the kids. I want to thank all of them, especially the kids, for what they've taught me, and I want to thank the Board of Trustees for bringing me into Palo Alto and Hoover 5 years ago, and for allowing me to continue to work for the greater community as the principal of the Palo Alto Adult School. It's truly an honor to work here. I want to wish Nicole, who is going to be coming up here pretty soon, the best. She's an incredible fit for Hoover, so we couldn't have found a better person. So thank you very much.
And speaking of Nicole Manu will continue serving in her role as the principal of Greendale Preschool and also assume the role of principal at Hoover Elementary, which will temporarily relocate to the Greendale campus due to construction. Ms. Manu has been an educator for 24 years. Her prior experience includes working as an administrative teacher on special assignment, a multi-grade educational specialist, a teacher for various grade levels in PAUSD, as well as the full-year distance learning coordinator. She earned a bachelor's and a master's degree at California State University, Fresno. Nicole.
Good evening, Palo Alto Unified Board members and Dr. Austin. I'm Nicole Manu, and I'm here to thank all of you for this amazing opportunity to continue as the principal of Greendale and Preschool Family, and now as the principal of Hoover. As Dr. Austin knows, this really is a dream come true for me, and I'm incredibly excited. I'm looking forward to working with the exceptional Hoover staff, students, and families while maintaining the relationship that I hold dear with Greendale and Preschool Family. I want to thank everyone for the support you've extended me since the announcement. I appreciate Dr. Austin and the creative and collaborative conversations that occurred, which I believe are a testament of Palo Alto Unified's promise. As you know, Hoover Elementary will be moving to Greendale School in the summer, and I believe this move will launch opportunities to build a strong campus that includes learners from birth to 5th grade, along with the parent education piece to make this school site really special. So thank you again for this opportunity, and I look forward to giving each one of you a tour of this unique campus, unlike any other. So thank you very much. And thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Nicole. And next up, we have Linnell Argumedo. He has been serving at El Carmelo Elementary School this year as the interim principal, and we will be removing the interim label from his title as he will be the principal at El Carmelo beginning July 1. Prior to El Carmelo Elementary, Mr. Argumedo supported Gunn High School as an assistant principal, Fletcher Middle School as an assistant principal, and has taught many elementary school for many years in Palo Alto. He holds a bachelor's degree in American History from the University of California, Berkeley, and a master's degree in Educational Leadership from Santa Clara University. Mr. Argumedo.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, board members. I'd like to first start by saying, expressing my gratitude for everyone, for your support, and for the opportunity to lead the El Carmelo community. I have been the interim principal now for 5 months, and the staff and families have given me not only a warm welcome, but the grace and time to learn about El Carmelo. For the past week, I have received a lot of congratulatory emails and messages. I even got a poster-sized card signed by all my students and staff, which was really heartwarming. But I have to say, what really touched my heart were the congratulations that I got from all my students out on the playground when they heard the news. They were so excited for me that I'd be an El Carmelo Dragon just like them. And for me, that brought it home. It really did. There's no question in my mind that El Carmelo is where I belong. Thank you again for the opportunity to serve such a wonderful and caring school community.
Just to wrap that up, and Peter, so happy to have you here from down the street. Really good to have you with our team, already adding value, and to the other three. Just a reminder, we tell everyone every day is an interview. And in this case, all three have earned the positions not through a 20-minute sit-down, ask scripted questions, but through their work in our district and through their reputations. And we're just really proud of all of them and happy to celebrate tonight. That's it. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. I have to say it was a really nice way to start the meeting between our students and then this wonderful staff. It's really nice to hear. So we're gonna move on to open forum now. I'm gonna say a few words about that. We have a lot of speakers. I think seeing some names, I think we can get there. I can think of about 4 or 5 different topics that we may be hearing about during open forum, and there might be more that I don't know about. But there are strong feelings in the room. And I want to remind everyone, because we have so many speakers, you have a minute. That a minute's hard. We'll ask you to come up to the microphone, speak into the mic so that people that are on YouTube or Zoom can hear you. I will cut you off at a minute because we have a lot of people to be heard. We have students for the next item that want to speak. We want to make sure we get to them. Just a reminder, this is open forum, and this is where we talk about things that are not agendized. So if you do start to talk about anything that is already coming up later on the agenda, I will ask our mic people to cut you off, which I don't like to do, but I want to make sure that we follow the rules that are, our bylaws and actually the law. So we're going to get started at open forum, and I am going to read them off in the order that they came in, as far as I know. There are no students at open forum as far as I see. That was the other question I was going to ask. If you are a student and you did sign up for open forum, let me speak now because I don't see a yes for student, and I want to make sure I get to you guys first for open forum. Okay, and the other reminder is if you do want to speak at open forum, you have until the end of the first speaker to get your card in, and then we're going to cut off the list where it is. So if you think you want to speak for open forum, go do that right now. The first speaker we have is Harry. followed by Lily Shu and Saad Khan. So Harry, Harry's on Zoom. Harry, are you there?
Yes,
Great.
thank you.
Take it away.
Yeah, so I want to talk about last Friday, PAUSD suddenly announced it will no longer offer dual enrollment for multivariable calculus and linear algebra. The announcement said it's because Foothill only offer one section and is limited. So starting from the fall, students can directly register. And the announcement said this change will expand students' option. So first, the claim benefits are hard to understand. Students can always directly register with Foothill and transfer credit. This new policy simply takes dual enrollment off the table. How does removing options also expand options? Second, off-campus credit transfer will receive unweighted GPA, a double credit, even if a student is convinced, maybe by PAUSD, that weighted GPA is not that important. At least he or she doesn't want to see the weighted GPA to drop, right? It will significantly drop, right, even if the ACEs. And also this sudden change will impact about 100 juniors in the AP Calculus class today. Some of them already selected the course. We are told the choice will be void, but we're not offered any chance to update.
Okay. So I think I'm supposed to alternate between in-person and Zoom, and I forgot to do that. So I've already called that next will be Lily and then Saad. And then after that, then the first person in room is Edith Cohen.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me all right. My name is Lily Shea. I'm the parent of two sixth graders at Fletcher Middle School. I join other parents at Stanford West to advocate for the resumption of school buses for Stanford West and surrounding neighborhoods. As an economist who studies climate change, allow me to share with you an environmental rationale for bringing back school buses. My understanding is that prior to the pandemic, 2 school buses serviced the Stanford West area, transporting about 150 students from Stanford West to local schools. While some families drive electric vehicles and maybe some kids bike to school, a majority of these kids are currently driven to school by gasoline cars, and that means there's a lot of gasoline cars on the street, emitting about 240,000 pounds of carbon emissions per school year by my calculation. And this is compared to 37,000 pounds of carbon emissions per year if the 2 diesel-powered school.
I know it is really hard to stay within a minute, so please, if you can't get all your comments out, please send them to board@pausd.org. Thank you, Lily. Saad Khan and Edith Cohen, and then Nancy Carbal.
Thank you. This is Saad Khan, and I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to speak. I would echo the previous speaker where it is a dire issue for those of us who would love to see our students who are residents of Palo Alto living in Stanford West to have a bus service that would help reduce emissions, reduce traffic, reduce absenteeism, and further the goals of the Palo Alto School District. I think that this is a strong issue that we appreciate the board's efforts towards, but we do definitely want a good faith effort from all of you that will result in a bus service that we can use to serve all the students. The number about 40 or 50 coming from Stanford West, and currently result in 40 or 50 cars plugging up Palo Alto roads and creating traffic and extra environmental harms and pollution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Edith Cohen in person, and then Nancy Carbal on Zoom, and then Yaroslava Krivokin in person.
Hi, everyone. First, I would like to express my disappointment from the removal of the dual enrollment option for the advanced math courses that was just announced. It was not just it was sudden and unexpected. It was also the way the decision was done. It was not explained well. Students already selected courses for next year. There are about 100 students impacted. The students that are post-BC calculus don't have other equitable options to continue with their math education. I mean, for example, like my kid can take courses in foreign university remotely, but it costs. So other kids that don't have the resources, the only really option to continue with their math education is through the community colleges. And if it's not offered at school, then they have to commute, which is another issue, and they have to find time to take it after school. So I'm asking you to reconsider the option, to reconsider this decision, and work with the community colleges. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Cohen. You can send the rest of your comments to board@pausd.org. Next, we have Nancy Carbajal, and then Yaroslava.
Hello, hi. I'm sorry, not speaking English.
You're doing great.
Speak Spanish. Sorry. In Spanish is good or no?
If you want to do Spanish, do we have someone that can
Yes.
translate?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, okay, we've got someone who can translate for sure. We're going to give you 2 minutes can we reset for 2 minutes? And then go ahead and speak. Just remember to pause so that Guillermo can translate for us.
Thank you. Hi, soy Nancy. Tengo 3 hijos, 2 en Fletcher y 1 en Nixon. Necesito el bus porque está muy cara la gasolina. Vivo en Stanford West. Porque también
¿Me puede dar un momento para hablar? Sí.
Así.
So she's a parent. She's a parent of students of Nixon and Fletcher. So she's calling in regarding that they don't have transportation. They're requesting transportation, but also because gas prices are very high. Siga otra vez.
Y para mi trabajo se me hace imposible trabajar. Renuncié a mi trabajo por lo mismo porque no tengo para quien me lleve a mis hijos.
Okay,
y por eso necesito el bus.
Okay, un momento. So it's regarding, again, transportation. So the situation this is in is it'll be very difficult for her to take her kids to school. Either she takes them or she'll have to lose her job. So she's very concerned. So she's calling in regarding the transportation. ¿Algo más, señora?
Sí, es todo.
Okay, muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry if I make a mistake here. I'm going back and forth between Zoom and in person. We have Yaroslava next, and then after that is Anita Kishore, and then the next in person is Christoph. This.
Hi, my name is Yaroslava Krivokon. I'm here to talk to you about the restructuring plan of the Mod Severe Special Education Program. So just to show you, these are all the signatures of my petition of more than 300 people who've signed it in support of our cause. So this plan was put together by Dr. Austin's staff to follow the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, also known as IDEA. However, it is not the only law that governs access to education. On March 21st, 2023, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that school districts are bound by not only IDEA, but by the Americans with Disabilities Act as well. Specifically, Section 504 of ADA states that, I quote, any entity receiving federal financial assistance must ensure that persons with disabilities are not discriminated against in any and all aspects of employment or denied access to the goods or services that these federal fund recipients provide. PAUSD receives federal funds, so it is bound by Section 504 of ADA. As it stands—
Okay, that's 1 minute. Your time is up. Thank you. Please send the rest of your comments to board@PAUSD. Is Anita on Zoom? She's not there. Okay. Oh, she's in person. Oh. Okay, well then I called you, so come on up. We're not going to be perfect about the alternating. We're going to do the best we can. Anita, you are next, and then Christoph, and then Laura Bernard.
No one appears to disagree that Stanford West requires a bus to transport the children of our 800+ families across town, 5.3 miles each way to school. In fact, it is my understanding that PAUSD agreed to bus Stanford West children as part of the agreement when Stanford West was built, so as not to increase traffic in our city. Stanford West parents have been told for several years now that PAUSD is unable to resume their school bus route because they cannot hire a school bus driver. But is that really the problem? Has PAUSD included the Stanford bus route in its budget assumptions for next year? Have they advertised for a school bus driver to fill this position? It's at this time of year that Stanford West parents get a request for a personal check to pay for the Stanford West bus for the following year, and Stanford West parents have yet to receive this request. My understanding is that PAUSD's Director of Transportation has not yet received a commitment from the district office to run the Stanford West school bus route for next year. How can we say that the issue is the inability to hire a school bus driver when we haven't even included the Stanford West school bus in the budget assumptions for next year? And I'll send the rest of my comments.
Thank you. Christophe Luz, then Laura Bernard on Zoom, and then I think the next person in person is Michael Rosen.
So you probably already know my face. I should get a point card by now because the school bus issue is not new. It's almost a year old now that I have been here. I brought a list with 55 families in Stanford West, which I won't read now because we don't have the time for that. But I do have a question. I have some good news. We have the Palo Alto link recently started. I was wondering, how many drivers did you get for the Palo Alto link, Mr. Tanaka? How many drivers did you need to find? It's at least 6, right? You have at least 6 Palo Alto link driving around. 6 drivers that Palo Alto Council managed to find for the Palo Alto link. So the excuse that it's impossible to find drivers doesn't really have the full weight when we see that others who are really looking for drivers actually manage to find drivers. So I don't really take this that drivers are impossible to find. Sure, employment situation is difficult right now. Sure, somebody has to try hard to find the drivers, but we see right now, best possible example right in Palo Alto, that it's actually possible. Thank you very much. And I hope that I don't have to come for the next 10 Palo Alto school meetings.
Thank you. Laura Bernard, and then, who did I say? Michael Rosen, and then Michelle Chang.
Hi, my name's Laura Bernard, and I'm also a parent at Stanford West. I have 2 children at Fletcher Middle School. I work on campus at Bing Nursery School, and before the pandemic, my children took the bus. I bike to work because I don't have parking, and Stanford, encourages us not to drive to work. So I've had to bike my children and 3 other children in the neighborhood to Fletcher. And it's difficult, with the weather, it's tricky. We have a really tricky bike ride to school. And I think if you see, across Page Mill, Sand Hill, across campus, it's a long way to ask 11-year-olds to bike to school. I have no option to pick the kids up at the time Fletcher gets out. So I have to have them bike to my work and wait. And for me, it's a safety issue. I see so many kids, with such close calls every day, whose parents really have no option but to kind of do a Hail Mary and have their kids bike a pretty tricky bike ride to school. So for me, it's a big safety issue for our children.
Again with this. Thank you. Next, Michael Rosen, then Michelle Chang, and then Ken Horowitz. Michael, it says in person here, but is Michael there? Is Michael on Zoom? Okay. See, not perfect. You don't see him? Okay, we'll come back to him. The next then would be Michelle Chang, who I think is on Zoom, and then Ken Horowitz in person. You see him now? Okay, so sorry. Michael Rosen, then Michelle Chang, then Ken Horowitz.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Michael Rosen. I'm the parent of 2 PAUSD troublemakers. I share everyone's enthusiasm for supporting parents in making the best choices for our diverse children. My son is terrible at baseball and very interested in math. If your freshman can hit a 70-mile-per-hour fastball, my children and I will still cheer them on from the front row of the varsity baseball game. If your child is great at jazz trombone, I'll cheer them on for the most advanced band option possible. If they're skilled at Japanese, I'm thrilled to cheer them on taking AP Japanese as a freshman. Please enable my children and the 20% of kids who say they're not challenged in math to follow their curiosity and interest at the level they deserve. And please cheer them on as they do it. Thank you everyone here for their passion in helping us make the best choices for our children. Thank you for the time.
Thanks. Michelle Chang, then Ken Horowitz, and then Rebecca Levy.
Hi, can you hear me okay? Yes. Okay, my name is Michelle, and I'm a parent at Stanford West, echoing the same concern about the lack of buses going to the elementary schools in Fletcher. My son is a 4th grader going to Nixon, and I'd like to bring attention to the job posting on the website As of today, it is actually expired, and the deadline was for job posting is March 14th. So was someone hired? There should be more information provided on the hiring process. If it's expired, assuming someone is hired, or if nobody is hired, why is the job posting not getting renewed? How much effort is being put into the hiring process? Is there, looks like the posting says 7 hours. Is that necessary? Like, why are we not getting candidates for the drivers? Is it possible to split to an AM versus a PM position?
Thank you. Ken Horowitz, then Rebecca Levy, then Rika Yamamoto.
Thank you. Good evening. Here for my bi-monthly report on Cubberley, and I'm here to thank the board and Mr. Darup for the letter that they sent out to the Palo Alto City Council. I'm hopeful there'll be some movement in the next few months, or at least by 2024, to redevelop Cubberley. I sent you on the board a copy of the 2013 advisory committee report on Cubberley, and I don't expect you to read all of it, but particularly pay attention to the facilities, recommendations, and the financing. And hopefully the board and the city council will take some action and we'll finally get Cubberley fixed up the right way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Rebecca Levy, then, I've lost track, Rika Yamamoto, and then Elaine Hill.
Hello, are you able to hear me? Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Rebecca Levy. I'm also a parent living at Stanford West of a child who goes to Nixon and sooner or later will be over at Fletcher. I know you've heard a lot already. Just to summarize, the significant environmental impact of families driving, the impact of the traffic around Nixon for the community that lives there, and also for those of us driving. I've actually almost been hit by families multiple times while driving myself because it's so hectic there. You've heard about how it impacts parental time, and it's really significantly decreasing our productivity to help the city and help the university. Every time I have to drive, it means that as a doctor, I'm not helping you or one of your family members in my clinic. But I wanted to bring up a few other points. The first is the social impact on children when they have to choose who to ride with, and then equity, who gets to be able to drive. Not all families have access. And finally, the optics, knowing that all other schools in our area have buses, many of them free.
Thank you. I believe Rika Yamamoto, then Elaine Hill, and then Maya Johnson.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Rika Yamamoto, the chair of the Palo Alto CAC for Special Education. We want to clarify for the record the misinformation about the CAC organization. CAC was created to serve family and to advise the board and district. We were acknowledged by the PAUSD board in 1988 as a community partner. We are also a subcommittee of SERPA 1 CAC and are acknowledged by them as a robust organization with a focus on special education in Palo Alto. We have 2 members that are appointed to the SERPA 1 CAC by the Board of Trustees. We are a contributing partner to the Palo Alto Council of the PTAs. Our integrated effort with them have supported PTA special education inclusion reps at each school site.
Thank you, Ms. Yamamoto. Elaine Hill, Maya Johnson, and wait, let me just find who's next so they can get ready. Stephen Davis.
Hi, I'm Elaine Heel. I'm also speaking on behalf of the Palo Alto CAC tonight. We work, as Rika was saying, we work closely with PTAC and the PAUSD Special Ed Department to serve students and families, parent education and support, community building through PAUSD Family Leadership Summit, IEP workshops, Transition IEP Night, Special Olympics, Inclusive Resource Fair, Family Fun Day, Holiday Tea, Sweetheart Award, and Bus Driver Appreciation. And to cover a few highlights from the time CAC has been in existence, and we support the Sweetheart Awards, recognizing people who've made a positive difference for students, families with IEPs, 504s, and learning differences since 2005. In 2014, we requested the district assemble a task force to collect more parent input and better understand outcomes associated with receiving services within special education. And as a response, the district special ed external review was conducted in 2015. And during the pandemic, we worked closely with
Thank you, Ms.
PTA.
Hill.
Thank you.
Try to do too many things at once. Maya Johnson, and then, wait, Maya, before you get started, Maya Johnson, then Stephen Davis, and then Pedram Fati.
Okay, hi. As an alumni of one of the few people of color in A lanes of math, it made me wonder where the other ones were, in the lower lanes, and it felt tough to try and excel in classes where you've singled out. There are already few people of color in PAUSD anyway. There were times in high school where I wanted to drop because I didn't think I'd be able to finish the class with a good grade, even though I knew that I knew the information. This phenomenon starts all the way in middle school. Many people of color started in the lower 7th grade class for math, which by the end of high school leads to a perceived academic inferiority mindset, which is detrimental to mental health. De-laning math will hopefully allow students who lack confidence in their academic excellence to have the chance to thrive. Thank you.
Okay, that's a 1 minute comment. So next we have, I think, Stephen Davis, then Pedram Fatahi, and then Javier Jimenez.
Good evening. I heard an ugly rumor last week that Palo Alto was pushing its mod and severe students out of Palo Alto's distinguished schools and wealthy schools, and that the mild mod kids would follow. I don't believe it. But what I do believe and know is that this board and this district has done a lot to damage their communications with and connection to the special ed community. It is time for the district to directly speak to the entire community. We've had a webinar recently open for the district to all the 9th graders. We have these public meetings. The board and the district can directly meet with the community. They don't need an intermediary.
Thank you. Pedram Fatahi, who I think is on Zoom, and then Javier Jimenez in person, and then Nicholas Gorski on Zoom.
Thanks so much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Pedram Fatahi. My wife, Christina, and I live at Stanford West with our 2 children who've been lifelong Palo Alto School District students. They'll be at Nixon and at Fletcher next year. We both work as physicians in the hospital. We've done so throughout the pandemic. You know, when the pandemic started a few years ago, we were grateful to have a place for them to go. And since then, we've been dealing without a school bus. It's not always been very elegant, but we've made do. A lot of other people have already referred to this, that the morning drive with traffic and seeing other harried families making their way through the parking lot together is just a painful thing to do. I think most of us have done it quietly and earnestly for these few years. But my hope is that everybody on the board owns this problem as though it were their own and helps us solve it. We do appreciate the work that you do. I know it can be thankless, so thank you.
Thank you. Javier Jimenez. Oh, okay. All right, I'm going to cross that one out. Then we have Nicholas Gorski, then Devin Ardeshna, and then Richard Offring. Is Nicholas on Zoom? Great.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Nick Gorski. I have 1 child at Nixon Elementary. Next year I'll have 2. My family lives at Stanford West. Bus service from Stanford West to Nixon increases equity in the community, ensuring that all families are able to get their children to elementary school on time when faced with a 3-mile one-way commute. Bus service from Stanford West to Nixon increases safety. Both the main and rear entrances to Nixon are unsafely congested, as is evident by repeated emails reminding parents of traffic and safety rules around the school from Leanne Taylor, the secretary, and Amy Sheward, the principal. The most recent email that we received was March 19th, just 9 days ago. Bus service from Stanford West to Nixon is better for our environment. It must be far from the only parent that had to explain to their 8-year-old that yes, it is far worse for our environment to have every student driven to school in an SUV, minivan, or car individually, rather than in a single bus. But as a community, we lack not the ability, but the will to solve that problem. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I think we have Richard next. That wasn't just Richard, was it? No. That was Nick Gorski, right? Okay, which means we have an in-person Devin Ardeshna. Am I doing it right? Okay, Devin, then Richard, and then Greg Tanaka.
Hey, I'm Devin. I was class of 2018, and I'm here to talk about math. So I took multivariable calculus and linear algebra as a senior, and I was also really interested in robotics at the time. And it turns out that this math is used all throughout robotics. So by taking these courses, I was not only able to code up different robotic algorithms, but also learn about the theory behind them. And it was this theory, the second part, that was really interesting to me by the end of high school. So I went on to study control theory, and I'm actually going to start as a vehicle control engineer this July. So that's all to say that these accelerated math courses, it's not just about college applications. The content that you learn is actually foundational for other fields in science and engineering, like control theory. For me, having the chance to take these courses, it introduced me to something that I'm now really passionate about, and I'm really grateful for that. So that's all I have to say for now. I'll be back for the agenda item later. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard over Zoom, and then Greg Tanaka here in person, and then Marilyn Lee over Zoom.
Hello, good evening. So I'm a parent of a Pally Jr. I'm calling to comment on that shameful decision by PAUSD to cancel the multivariable calculus for next year. It's a class that's been offered at Pally since at least 2012. The notice about the cancellation was hidden from parents who otherwise sign off on their students' course selections. Further, it came on a day where a survey of almost 2,000 students showed that 43% of them are extremely or somewhat likely to take a math class beyond AP Calculus BC in high school if only they could. I wonder what other dual enrollment classes would get this type of endorsement from our students. The cancellation also came under a false pretext that this will allow students and families to select the course time that best meets their needs. However, students have always had the option of taking this class outside of PAUSD, and the most appropriate class time is clearly during scheduled school hours. Finally, though I have not checked all, but I'm yet to find a—
Thank you. You can mail us the rest of your comments. I think that, oh yes, Greg Tanaka, then Marilyn Lee, and then Avery Wong.
Thank you for allowing me to speak as a concerned parent. I'm speaking on my behalf and not on any city council official business. I stand before you to express my concerns regarding the recent decision to stop counting off-course courses towards the student's GPA and the removal of the multivariable calculus offering at our high school. I believe it is crucial to consider the potential negative consequences of these decisions may have on students who genuinely seek advanced studies not offered by the school district. Our primary concern should be the academic growth and success of our students. And these policies may inadvertently penalize those who pursue off-campus courses or advanced classes like multivariable calculus. I urge the school board to reconsider these decisions and adopt a more nuanced approach, such as a case-by-case evaluation or specific criteria to determine which courses should be included in GPA calculations, as well as reinstating MVC courses for high school students. Thank you guys for your work.
Thank you. Marilyn Lee, Avery Wong, Jordan Gray. Everyone's over Zoom now, so it's easy. I just go down the list. Marilyn Lee. Okay, well, don't gray her out. We'll come back to her. Avery Wong, Jordan Gray, Carrie Wagner.
All right. Recently, PAUSD announced it would eliminate dual enrollment for math classes.
Why just math? For many years, seniors who have already finished calculus have traditionally taken multivariable calculus. Dual enrollment classes count on the PAUSD transcript on a 5-point scale. Multivariable is a very hard college level class and was deservedly counted on a 5-point scale. Now, those math students are being told you're on your own and that PAUSD would not provide guidance in any way. They now have to pay money out of their own pockets. This is inequitable because socioeconomically disadvantaged students will now have to fork out hundreds of dollars to pay for it. I count, based on the 9th grade enrollment report, 6 socioeconomically disadvantaged kids will now have to pay tuition. Will PAUSD offer tuition vouchers? These actions hurt only advanced students.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jordan Gray on Zoom, then Carrie Wagner on Zoom, and then Arabi on Zoom.
Good evening. I'm speaking about the pressures of math at the elementary school level. The purpose of education is preparing people to contribute positively to society and the world. So much of life is about navigating the qualitative, subjective experiences, but an overemphasis on math alone as the most valuable field of study will not prepare our students, our children, to be engaged citizens or community members in the world. Our daughter, who's in 2nd grade, has gone to school, and some kids say about math, oh, it's so easy, and that has hurt her confidence. She's come home recently and told us she requested extra math homework because other kids in her class had done so. We, of course, want to encourage kids to pursue things they enjoy and are passionate about and have opportunities to do so, but even if the children don't know it's pressure, having kids requesting extra homework in 2nd grade and feeling like therefore they should as well is concerning. Given the history of our region, our district, and schools with the academic pressure to be successful, which, let's be honest, comes a lot from parents, we need to be mindful and honest about the negative impacts that pressure has had on the children in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie Wagner, Arabi, and then Allison Rosen.
Hi, my name is Carrie Wagner, and I'm the current president of the Palo Alto PTA Council. PTA is the oldest and largest child advocacy organization in the United States. Our mission is to support every child. And some of you might not know that in January, our own PTA Council had our 100th birthday. So we might be one of the older groups in Palo Alto itself. We believe that all children can succeed. Our mission is to support every child. We ask the board and district to continue working on equity and access issues for our historically underrepresented students as they make changes to programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Arabi, and if you are on Zoom and are going to speak, if you could state your last name so we have it for the record. Then we have Allison Rosen, and then Eileen Kim is our last speaker on our list at our cutoff.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Arabi Sundararajan is my name. Dual enrollment of multivariable calculus at PAUSD was suddenly eliminated this past week. Firstly, this was very untimely and students were not told in advance. Secondly, this will cause undue stress on students who have already decided to take this class, and therefore they've juggled the other classes. They will not be able to take this class with their friends, and they will have to commute outside of school time. Can you please reconsider working with Foothill College, and just like Los Altos High does, have an instructor come to teach during school hours so that our students can continue their math path towards multivariable calculus that you have published in your website. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you. Allison Rosen, Eileen Kim, and then if Marilyn Lee's there.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I was so impressed in the last board meeting with the great dyslexia program presented by Danae Reynolds. The iReady reading test screened for dyslexia. Then there was evidence-based training in phonological awareness. iReady also gave refined feedback on whether students were mastering different subskills at the beginning, middle, and end of the year. They showed an elaborate pathway of support so that targeted tutoring could be provided. The contrast of high school math and math in general versus reading was stunning. You forced 90% of freshmen into geometry or lower, no evaluation of their achievement coming out of middle school, no measures of their growth and knowledge over the year, no description of a safety net of support. No wonder so many students are stressed. We need a working group in partnership with parents and students to fix this math program. There needs to be challenge and support that's appropriate for each individual student. Thank you.
Thank you. That sounded a little bit like a middle school math comment, but it was a minute, so I passed on, but please be mindful that this is open forum. This is not that item. Eileen Kim, and then let me just say this before Eileen starts. If Marilyn Lee is on Zoom, it looks like there are a lot of people that don't have their full name. In order for us to unmute you, and this goes for any comment going forward, if you're on Zoom, if you have submitted a card to make a comment, please make sure your full name is on your account so that we know who to unmute. So go ahead, Eileen, you've got 1 minute.
The ESSA is that Every Student Succeeds Act. All children should have opportunities and support to realize their full potential. However, PAUSD is doggedly determined to ensure students who have high academic abilities are not supported, fully discouraged, and face multiple hurdles. Instead of supporting children with advanced abilities in accessing equitable opportunities to develop their gifts and talents, PAUSD has developed a reputation of not being concerned with high-performing students because it's a public school district, implying these students should attend private school. This act includes several provisions that support gifted and talented students. Approximately $21 billion in funds are distributed to public schools, K-12 initiatives, accountability for student achievement, math science partnerships, and professional development. Yet PAUSD forces high-achieving students to fend for themselves. Instead of wanting, encouraging, and allowing all students, including high-achieving students, to realize their full potential, PAUSD places a glass ceiling, removing advanced math courses, delaning, limiting skipping to 1 grade. This is an equity issue, full stop.
Thank you. Is there Marilyn Lee there? Okay, that is the end of open forum. You're AYUKO, did you just submit, did you submit your name recently? I have it at 7:30 tonight as having submitted it.
Exactly, because she wasn't called up, so she said submitted it again right now. But there should be one from yesterday.
I'm sorry, I don't have your name here. I don't know what. I'm a little nervous about going outside of the bounds here. Yeah? Okay, go ahead, come on up. I'm nervous about opening the door here for breaking our own rules.
Thank you so much for giving me a time to speak today. I'm a mother of 3 students, and 2 are in elementary school, and 1 is in a middle school. And I'm currently living in a Stanford West apartment. Today, I'm here to share some of my experience. First of all, I'd like everyone to know that the lack of school bus affects students' well-being a lot. It's sadly common among parents to take sick kids who are absent from school, but still for going to school for picking up their sibling. And I had a terrible experience last winter. My 1st grade son was very sick, but I had to take him to pick up his sibling to 2 different schools. I usually do carpooling, but that day, so they are not available. And my husband was gone for a business trip. So my son was screaming while I was driving because he was almost throw up. And it took us 50 minutes to come back home, and he was back home, so shivering with high fever.
Thank you for your comments. You can send the rest of them to board@pausd.org. Thank you. Okay, that is the end of open forum. And Dr. Austin, I think you had a comment to make.
Just a couple very quick ones. The budget assumption item is coming up later in the agenda, and we can talk about busing there. It's already agendized, so I don't want to get too out of process, but what I will tell everyone is that we have interviews already set up for no less than 2 experienced drivers already. But we can talk more about it when it's properly agendized coming up here shortly. The second piece, just a quick clarification. The multivariate calculus course at Pali was not cut. It was not a decision. The teacher does not have a California teaching credential, therefore does not qualify for dual enrollment. In the past, we had a PAUSD teacher who, the opposite way around, which is the way it's more typical, did qualify to teach at the community college level, so therefore he was able to give dual enrollment for many years. Since that point in time, not only has he retired from the district, he sadly passed away. So this was not a decision, this is a rule. And it is something that I've already seen the communication. It'll be at least the third that's going out, but it's going to go out this Friday. And my update, which is a little more detailed, gives a little more explanation. It is not a math decision at all. In fact, we will outline the scenarios in which one school may have a dual enrollment course and the other school could have the exact same course but not have dual enrollment for the exact reason I just explained. It's a credentialing issue. But I don't want to go too deep on that. I just wanted to correct that quickly. And we have another piece of information going out Friday to give a little more context, but not a math decision.
Okay, thank you. Next is the consent calendar. These items are considered routine and will be approved in one action without discussion. If a board member requests an item be removed from the calendar or a citizen wish to speak to an item, it will be considered under action items. I don't see any community comments about this particular item. Board members, colleagues, do I have a motion?
I move the consent calendar as presented.
I have a second? Okay.
Second.
Board members' preferential vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Darup?
Aye.
Ms. Siegel?
Aye.
Ms. Lademaric?
Aye.
Mr. Collins?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Okay, consent calendar is approved. Moving on to our first action item, 5A. Dr. Austin?
Yeah, I'll bring up Mr. Holm for this, for the next two items, actually.
Just, may I just briefly before we?
Yes.
I just want to recognize that we just approved all those wonderful people that came to the podium earlier. So congratulations to all of them.
He just acknowledged that in consent, we actually officially approved all those people that Mr. Bahadur Singh had introduced a few minutes ago. Sure.
Good evening, Board. The first item on the action item is recommendation for the Board to approve adding 4 firms to a construction management pool. That's FS3 Hodges, RGM Kramer, TeleQ Construction Management, and Van Pelt Construction Services. We took the RFQ to you a couple months ago, and we posted it, had applications, did some interviews, and so we'd like to create this pool of firms that can provide additional services. At this point, we are the busiest we've been on construction, and we are continuing to increase projects, and so we are wanting to have the ability to add firms and add to their availability for select projects.
Okay, great. Board colleagues, any questions or comments for Mr. Holm? Mr. Collins?
I'm just going to move the item if that's okay.
Why don't you move it, we'll second it, and then we can ask if there's any.
Okay, I move that we authorize the item as presented.
Second.
Great, okay, that is on the table. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Okay, student board reps, preferential vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Darup?
Aye.
Ms. Siegel?
Aye.
Ms. Lademaric?
Aye.
Mr. Collins?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Okay, great. Mr. Holm?
Thank you very much. The next item is authorization, excuse me, authorization to award contract for Green Middle School Library and Classroom Building. It is recommended, or the request is for Sasso Corporation. They had a bid of $31,910,000. This would also include authorization to approve change orders in the amount not to exceed 10% of the contract, or $3.19 million, and also approve an increase in the project budget of $7 million for a total project budget of $45.6 million. This is for the library and career technical classroom building at Green, and we had 4 bidders. The bids were all very close. Sasso Corporation has done several projects in our district and is currently working on other sites at the moment as well.
Great. Okay. Do you want to put a motion on the table, and then I can ask if there's questions?
Yes, I move that we award the contract, authorize the superintendent to approve the change orders and approve the increase in the project budget as presented.
Second.
Okay. Any comments or questions on the motion? Great. Students, preferential board vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Darup?
Aye.
Ms. Siegel?
Aye.
Ms. Lademaric?
Aye.
Mr. Collins?
Aye.
And I'm an aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Great. Great. Okay, moving on to discussion items. We have a community request from Miss Edith Cohen. And Miss Cohen, if you'd like to come up, you have 3 minutes.
Sorry, I'm not Edith, but I'm speaking on her behalf. I hope that's okay.
Sure.
My name is Gail McDowell, and I wanted to address some concerns regarding our current middle school math placement process. Last week, Dr. Austin sent out a great survey. Thank you so much. And some of the things it revealed are that 76% of our high school students wish they could have skipped and entered geometry in middle school. And 50% of students are interested in pursuing careers where math is routinely used. What this shows us is that misplacement in math makes it harder for our students to achieve their goals and dreams. The 2015 California Math Placement Act states that accurate math placement is essential for equity and student wellness. It stated, and I quote, "The most egregious examples of math misplacement," this is a direct quote, "occur with successful pupils and disproportionately students of color." 2, mathematics misplacement has far-reaching impacts on a pupil's confidence, general knowledge of mathematical concepts, and high school experience, and may also impact college career opportunities available to the pupil. And 3, all pupils, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, or socioeconomic background, deserve an equal chance to advance in mathematics. The current placement test is a gatekeeper comprised of math contest problems which are clearly inequitable. Most students, even those who are good at math, do not have the time, money, or interest to pursue math contest training. And this is a heavy component of the skip test. And we can see the consequences in the data. 2/3 of students who are ready for standardized testing for the next level end up failing our skip test. In Palo Alto, only 10% of students reach geometry by 8th grade, compared with 45% in Los Altos and Cupertino. We also see large disproportionalities. For example, in 9th grade advanced math, we only have 1 Latino student and 0 Black students. These statistics should be alarming to all of us. We cannot justify the discrepancies we're seeing. More accurate placement is more equitable and can be achieved by correctly applying readily available normed standardized assessment tools. So what we're proposing today is first, get rid of the math competition part of the skip test, which we know to be very inequitable. 2, use a standardized MDTP. We're already using this test, but score it in the typical way, the way it's intended. And 3rd, to compensate for demographic differences in educational background and preparation, as well as to address known historical biases in standardized testing. We recommend adding choice based on parent and student self-assessment of interest and commitment. That is, if a student is eager for a more advanced class, we don't need to hold them back. More accurate placement is key to more effective learning for all students, disadvantaged or not. We also recommend that in the future, in future years, we consider adopting more modern assessment tools and implementing flexible and equitable pathways that are responsive to our students' needs. In particular, student growth should be supported at school without requiring skipping. So for both mental health and equity reasons, we strongly recommend the board relook at the middle school math placement process.
Thank you. Okay, staff does not have anything to add to this, so we're going to go to public comment. I'm going to tell you something here. There's a lot of public comment. Everyone's going to get 1 minute. We have a 30-minute limit. We have 30 commenters. I am interpreting that to mean that we are going to hear 30 one-minute comments. I looked at the first 30 people to sign up. I placed the students at the beginning, and then the rest in order. No, not in order. Some of them, when possible, we tried to alternate back and forth. But if you were one of the first 30 people to sign up, then you are one of the people to speak. And I think, Vicki, do we have the slide to put up so that we can show people so you know? Here are the first 17. They're in red if they're students, and then go to 30. So we'll just take a second. If your name is on there, you registered to speak by the first 30, and if not, then our current bylaws do not allow for you to speak on this item at this time. So take a quick look at that, and then we are going to start at the top, and this is going to be so much easier for me now because I already did it just ahead of time. And we are looking forward to hearing from our students first, as always. Again, you have 1 minute. And I'll try to keep this with me so I know who's in person and who's on Zoom. But I think we're starting with Ezra on Zoom, and then Kai in person, and then Sienna on Zoom.
Hi, I'm Ezra, a junior at Gunn that skipped 2 grades in math. My experience has been a bit non-traditional. It wasn't until my freshman year of high school that I first became interested in math. I took GOH in freshman year and Algebra 2 Trig H my sophomore year. These classes weren't challenging, so I started taking math outside of school. I tried to skip a grade in math in both 9th and 10th grade, but teachers told me I couldn't. At some point, I got fed up of being told no, so I asked my skeptical mom if I could register for pre-calc and calc classes outside of school. It was what I wanted, not what my parents wanted. I knew I could take higher math if I had a good score in AP Calc, so I went through with spine. I felt isolated because of PAUSD's lack of support. I wasn't able to make connections with teachers and students as I wanted to. I joined the MVC class and I was very successful. Although I'm challenged now, I wasn't able to experience many Gunn math classes, including Analysis H and Calc PC, because I couldn't skip earlier. I like the recent push towards equity, but I feel disconnected from the board's actions. To me, equity is about support, choice, and opportunity. Taking opportunities away seems counterproductive. I think the school should prioritize encouraging underserved communities and providing resources and opportunities rather than taking opportunities away. Raising the ceiling and raising the floor aren't mutually exclusive and certainly should not be treated as such. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Kai Russell, then Sayana, and then Elizabeth Morehouse. Is Kai here in person? Is Kai over Zoom? Okay, if Kai appears, we will add Kai back. On to Sayana over Zoom, and then Elizabeth in person.
Hi, I'm Siona. I'm a sophomore at Gunn High School. I took the math skip test in 8th grade, and I'm now currently taking analysis honors, which is a grade ahead. I want to start by saying that I absolutely love my math class. I love the rigor of it and the challenge it brings me on a daily basis. An accelerated program is absolutely necessary because it allows students an opportunity to progress at their own pace and be challenged appropriately. School is about learning. If there's a class in which all the content is already learned, that class soon becomes tedious and mundane. Before my wonderful years in an accelerated math class, I remember walking to class and dreading the moment that it would start. Removing the accelerated option would steal the immense joy that both I and many others receive in being able to challenge ourselves appropriately. Furthermore, the daily opportunity to learn at a pace that constantly challenged me not only gave me the motivation to stay engaged and curious in my class, but it also fueled my passion for this subject even further. For these reasons and more, the option of an accelerated math program is essential to effectively challenge students and offer them a successful environment to prompt their growth. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Elizabeth Morehouse, then Agastya Gol, and then Benjamin Vakil.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Morehouse, and I am in 7th grade at JLS Middle School. I love the subject of math and look forward to learning more of it every day, if only I could. I have studied mathematics outside of school for years now because I enjoy it. When I go to my math class at JLS, I don't learn anything. I sit in the classroom while my teacher reviews concepts I have already learned. As the goal of a school is to teach things, I find it incredibly unfair that I must waste an hour and a half of my day when I could be learning. Therefore, I urge the board to use a fair and objective math placement test for us middle schoolers this spring 2023, so students can be in the right math class for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Agastya on Zoom, then Benjamin, and then Aiden.
Hello, my name is Agastya, and I'm currently a sophomore at Gunn High School. 4 years ago, I successfully passed the 6th grade skip test, allowing me to take Algebra 1 in 6th grade. Before this point, I've always felt as if I have a target on my back. I felt excluded by the extraordinarily rare fact that I enjoyed math. I felt as if I had been consigned to be a math kid and I could never be anything else. In Miss Nosik's 5th grade classroom, whenever the time for math rolled around, I could feel myself being separated from the other kids. They would form into groups and exclude me from those groups, only allowing me to interact and talk to the few other kids who loved math. Sixth grade was then a breath of fresh air. Even though I still felt unsatisfied taking 8th grade math, this chasm seemed to have vanished. And though I was still different from the other kids, I had a very positive experience. I do not think that I could have ever had a positive experience being in 6th grade math, cut off from the rest of my peers. People skip grades of math so that they can learn, have fun, and be normal, even if normal means being the youngest. People who skip math are not stressed. They love it. Thank you.
Thank you. Benjamin, Aiden, Kai.
Okay, so I'll come out and say it. I enjoy math, and I consider myself quite good at it. But in middle school, I had an IEP for various reasons, including ADHD and ADD, as well as tics. When I attempted to take the skip test, I was not given any preparation, any resources for it, as is the policy at PAUSD. I failed that test despite knowing all the concepts. I'm still ahead of math. I think that the problem here is that we think of this as a competition. It's not a competition. I don't think any legislating will fix that, but I consider myself I do math for the enjoyment of it, and I think that taking away these opportunities is, frankly, a terrible idea.
Thank you. Aiden, and then if Kai's there, and then we'll go on to Josh Spira.
I left JLS because of the unfair math placement process. From Maloney to JLS, I passed the Skip 6 test and was already taking 7th grade math. My family moved away temporarily due to work, and when I came back in 7th grade, they had me take another test, even though I already provided my transcript showing I took 7th grade math and got an A. I really loved math, but was bored in JLS math class. I spoke with my teachers and counselor, but they weren't willing to make any changes. Not being able to learn new math became the main reason why I transferred to a new school in the middle of the year, leaving my friends behind. In my current new school, where I'm taking Algebra 1 as a 7th grader, I am much happier because I am being challenged in math. I ask that you standardize middle and high school math placement and make the placement process fair and transparent so that all students can learn at the right level. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Kai here? No. Okay, so, oh, great. Okay, Kai Russell, if you are ready. Is he there? Yes, unmute. If you can unmute, Kai.
Hello, my name is Kai Russell and I'm in grade at Green Middle School. I like math. It is interesting and allows you to solve problems and have fun doing it. I like math for as long as I remember. I've been taking math classes outside for school since 5th grade because I started to get bored. I tried to pass the skip test for 2 years in a row, but both times I passed the first test and did not pass the second test. Last year, I went to our math coordinator in school to ask her what did I get wrong on the test and if there was anything I can do, but she kept telling me to come back later and then finally told me that there was nothing she can do because it was the end of the year. This is not an answer. This year, I'm just bored in class. Everything is so slow. I already know most of it and I'm done with my classwork and homework very fast. Then I have nothing else to do, so I just do other classwork and homework for our SEM or outside math. I want to be challenged in math, not bored next year.
Thank you. Josh Spira, Terry Baldwin, Sally Espinoza.
Dear PAUSD community, let me begin tonight by sending my heartfelt condolences to all those affected by the senseless tragedy of gun violence in our nation. Our hearts weep for the victims in Nashville. I continue to hope that we can solve this issue so the next generation of school children will not have to live in fear of gun violence. My name is Josh Spira, and once upon a time I was a PAUSD student. I took algebra as a 9th grader at Pali, and I struggled. I woke up mathematically during my junior year of high school. I'm glad that I wasn't precluded from taking advanced math courses due to my math readiness when I was in middle school. If so, I wouldn't be here today. I majored in math at UCSD. I have been teaching math at Green Middle School for 17 years, and I am also the math instructional lead. When we were tasked to implement the reimagined middle school math program 4 years ago, I must admit that I was skeptical. After teaching on our old system for over a decade, I didn't understand why we needed a change and if it was workable. I can confidently report that all PAUSD math teachers are working hard to successfully implement the Reimagining Math program, and we are seeing the benefits. My time's up, so I'm going to hand it over to Terry.
Thank you. Terry, then Sally Espinoza, then Becky Rea.
Thanks. Terry Baldwin. I am finishing Josh's statement. We have many more students taking algebra in middle school and, excuse me, and achieving success than before. These students will now be eligible to take more advanced math courses during high school. Over the last 3 years, I have come to the conclusion that reimagining math was a change that our math program needed, and also that our old system set our students on pathways that might not have been correct at the time. Reimagining math seemed like a radical idea when it was first proposed. By getting rid of lanes in middle school math, we are challenging the status quo, and that opens up opportunities for all of our students. Our program is not perfect, and we are constantly working to improve it. As math teachers in PAUSD, our goal is to serve all PAUSD students. Thank you for listening, and thank you for all that you do for our outstanding PAUSD community.
Thank you. We'll go faster if we just can go to the next person quicker. Sally Espinoza, Becky Ree, and Lynn Chen.
Hi, I have my daughter Naomi here. Is it okay if I turn the my time over to her?
Sure.
Okay.
My name is Naomi Espinoza, and I'm an 8th grader at Green Middle School. Over the past few years, I have found that my math classes weren't challenging me, so I decided to work towards a goal of skipping up to the next level of math. Over the past months, I've spent hours per week taking an honors geometry course outside of school, and have now moved on to a second geometry course that is UC accredited. My goal is to transfer into Algebra 2 next year. The only way I can do this is if PAUSD chooses to acknowledge the time and effort I've put in as valid learning. Taking a placement test, just as students transferring into the district do, may help to verify this learning. Thank you.
Thank you. Becky Ree, and then Lynn Chen.
Good evening. My name is Becky Ree. I'm the math teacher and instructional lead at Fletcher Middle School. Math education teaches useful skills, but more importantly, the study of mathematics trains our minds to think analytically. Developing a deep conceptual understanding of math is the goal of the math we teach in PAUSD. Math should not be a race to complete a list of courses in as little time as possible, but rather careful study of concepts, building solid understanding, which will allow individuals to construct new meaning and innovative applications. PAUSD math pathways are very different from the math pathways in neighboring districts. All PAUSD students are accelerated relative to California standards. Our practice, which results in placement into even more advanced classes, is also unique. Every teacher and every parent in our district want every student to receive the best math education possible. I welcome the current interest in PAUSD math pathways and placement. We need to communicate what we do and why we do what we do, and we need to ask if current practice is best or if changes should be made. I look forward to the opportunity to discuss this further. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Lynn Chen, then Molly Hawkinson, and then Ail Hochstoff. Is Lynn Chen on Zoom? You need to unmute Ms. Chen. Okay. We're gonna pass Lynn Chen for now and come back to her. Molly Hawkinson, Ail Hochendorf, and then Sarah Woodham.
Hi, I'm Molly Hawkinson. I teach math and PE, and I'm the math instructional lead at JLS Middle School. I'm here to remind everyone that teachers work hard. They oftentimes put the priorities of their students ahead of their own family's needs. We want, like all of you want, what is best for our students. We need to work together to achieve this. As a teacher, my first priority is to provide an equitable experience for all students. Each student should have the opportunity to succeed within the same capacity as their peers. I believe our current math placement process is fair and honest. In our community, there is an emphasis on math with STEM jobs at the forefront. As a district, we are continuously striving to prepare kids for a world that is innovative and ever-changing. Therefore, we need to be innovative and flexible ourselves. This is one reason why we made the decision to reimagine math. We created a pathway where every PAUSD middle school student will enter algebra as an 8th grader, a year advanced from the grade level norm. Each student is also given 3 opportunities to skip ahead another year of math in middle school, advancing 2 years ahead. Students should have a mastery level of knowledge of the class they want to skip. Transparency, validity, and security are top priorities in this. As a math program, we will continue to do math information nights,
Thank
have
you,
conversations with board
Ms.
members.
Hawkinson. She's still, no, she's walking away. Thank you. You can send us the rest of your comments to board@pausd.org. Is Lynn Chen, has she been able to unmute? Just have to say my IT staff over here like really deserves a medal tonight. It's like going back and forth. And Lynn Chen? Okay, let's keep going. IL on Zoom, and then Sarah Woodham in person, and then Linda Hennigan on Zoom. Okay. All right, so we won't skip that one. Sarah Woodham, Linda Hennigan, Jennifer Gloss.
Okay, my observations. This topic is asking our district to support skip test college app differentiating tactics. It largely aims for a lottery win to a narrow set of colleges. If math is your joy, have at it at high school. As it stands now, fear-based tutoring and unhealthy competition demoralizes many of our students, and HUR students are the canaries in the coal mine. It drains teachers, and good is never good enough. Do not keep feeding the beast in middle school. With 68% of Black and brown ninth graders not meeting our district goal of any geometry level this year, conflating lack of representation of HUR students in skipped math classes as an equity issue is naive or willfully ignorant. We have decades of data around middle school with laned math and equity, and it's appalling. Listen to our educators. We've reimagined math, and let's resource them to engage our impressionable kids in middle school.
Linda, Jen Gloss, and then Harry.
Hello, board members. I'm Linda Hennigan, and I'm speaking on behalf of the PTA Council in my role as the Deputy VP of Education. PTA Council fully supports the delaning of math in middle school as it addresses historical inequities that kept students in particular demographic groups out of advanced math classes in the past. Now that PAUSD has exceeded the state mandate by getting all students to algebra in 8th grade, the district is ensuring that no one is denied access to advanced classes. The district is also creating a more equitable community of learners, which is the charge of a public school. The PTA Council believes that the purpose of public education is to educate the entire public. We believe that all children can learn, and no demographic group has more or less academic ability than any other. Therefore, we do not need to fix the children. We need to fix the system that continues to reproduce inequities. We look forward to hearing more about how the district staff is changing the way they teach math and the way they support students in our math classes so that we continue to reduce disparities in placement that are identifiable by demographic group. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen Gloss, Harry, and Veronica Sele.
Good evening. I'm a parent of 3 children in our district. I recently learned about the California Math Placement Act and that a judge had determined that PAUSD is in violation. I have a question for the board. Why are we not complying with state law? I have 2 points. First, we don't pick which laws we choose to follow. PAUSD should comply with the Math Placement Act. Students should be evaluated with a single, transparent, standardized test. Students who successfully complete UC-approved math courses should be allowed to progress. Los Altos and Cupertino have 45% of their students testing ahead compared to our 10%. Are our kids less able? Are teachers less competent? Obviously not. There are extra obstacles in the way. Second, instead of challenging the Math Placement Act, PAUSD should put these resources towards math equity in elementary school,
Ms.
where we
Gloss.
will get the highest impact.
Can you send us the rest of your comments at board@pausd.org?
Thank you.
Thank you. Harry, Veronica, and Pavlina Apt on Zoom.
Yes, this is Harry.
Go ahead.
I heard argument from both sides in support of nanny and in support of de-nanny. I truly don't understand why putting all the kids of different levels in the same classroom will be a better option for everybody to learn. you say, I truly believe in our teachers, like they are wonderful teachers. I also have some teaching experiences myself. I feel like it's almost impossible for me to take care of a classroom of students with years of experience difference. I mean, how can I take care of each one, right? We want customized education for everyone, but then the best way to do it is to get them into different groups and so that they can work together, right? I always hear from, I hope I can see a formal analysis or argument and tell me how this is gonna work, like put all the kids of different levels in the same classroom and one teacher can take care of everybody.
Thank you. Veronica, then Paulina, then Lena Russell.
I'm a Pally parent and a youth psychiatrist of 2 decades. I support evidence-based, equity-focused policies that are not based on theoretical claims. Recent data demonstrates that full academic engagement is strongly associated with positive teacher-student relationships. Lack of full engagement is linked with more frequent school stress, high rates of cheating, and greater internalizing, externalizing, and physical symptoms of stress. There is pressure in this community to specialize earlier in academics and sports. However, children's interests shift or not, and it's important that we don't pigeonhole them into STEM kid or non-STEM kid titles. What starts as a child's passion can suddenly move to burnout when the pressure to maintain that title is given. Someone else's trajectory might be to develop a passion later. It's incorrect to suggest that this kid missed their window. I support the equity-based initiative to delane math so that all kids arrive ready for geometry. My highest praise to
Thank you. Your time is up.
Mr. Spira.
You can send the rest of your comments to board@pausd.org. Paulina, Lena Russell, Cynthia Wood.
Hi. I would like to advocate for standardized tests to be used for middle school math placement. We've all heard about a student not striving when there are younger kids better at math in his class. So I asked my son about the situation in his 7th grade math class. What I learned, perhaps not surprisingly, is that the best students in class are the 6th graders that skip the 6th grade math. He likes to sit with them because they make great team members and they help explain stuff when he gets stuck working on a problem. Being in the same class works well for them. The middle school math placement should be done using a fair and standardized test. Students that have interest in math should be in a class that provides adequate challenge. Thank you.
Thank you. Lena Russell, Cynthia Wood, Nana Chancellor. Is Lena Russell in person here?
No.
Oh,
Hello?
she's on Zoom. Okay. See,
Yes.
no,
Hi.
you never can know.
Hi, my name is.
Oh, I heard you and then I didn't.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
We're going to just reset your timer. Okay,
Thank
go
you.
ahead. Yep, we can hear you.
Great. I am Lena Russell, and you heard from my son Kai earlier. He's in 7th grade at Green Middle School. He started showing interest and passion for math early in elementary school. And he took the skip tests in both 5th and 6th grades. Both times he got great results from the standardized test, MDTP test. And both times we as parents were not allowed to see the school district provided tests to figure out what happened and why he didn't pass. There was no transparency and there was no recourse. This year, he's just bored and spends his time in class doing his homework for supplemental math classes he takes outside of school. The teacher is unable to engage all of the kids with different levels of math that come into her classroom. We have 2 successful language immersion programs in our elementary schools. We do not place graduates of those programs in first-year Spanish or Mandarin classes because that would be a complete waste of their time. Why are we doing it with math? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Russell. Cynthia Wood, Nana Chancellor, Mayor Lucas.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Hello, I am Cynthia Wood. Thank you for letting me speak. As a Mexican-American mathematician by training who has a PhD in mathematics, I can tell you that access to advanced math truly changed my life during the formative years of late adolescence. Sure, it allowed me to deepen my mathematical knowledge, but it also helped me develop a feeling of belonging. I was able to meet people with a similar deep interest in math, form strong connections, and even friendships I keep until today. Many of these people have different backgrounds, but we had a common appreciation for math that made us bond. That being said, I can also tell you that my interest in math is truly genuine. No one in my family is a mathematician. I was never pushed to like math and did not receive extensive training for a test. There has to be basic knowledge and prerequisites to make math classes and to take them. But by making the placement test almost impossible for students without additional support, removing proper credit from these classes, or from the curriculum altogether, you will leave out people like me.
Thank you, Ms. Ward. Nana, Mayor Gail McDowell.
My statement is by Elizabeth Baylor, who couldn't be here. I have a 7th and a 3rd grader in the district, Asian and both strong in math. There's been a rallying of the troops in parts of our community, often targeting parents of very young children to make them believe that kids in our district are at some sort of math disadvantage, when really the opposite is true. The fear-mongering and bullying is becoming toxic in online parent groups, and I worry it's spilling over onto our students and teachers. It's a universal phenomenon that parents try to game the system to help their own kids. The job of a public school district is to have a curriculum designed by education experts, not parents, and policies that try to keep things as fair as possible. Normalizing an environment where kids and parents are incentivized into private supplemental math programs and tutoring in order to pass skip tests is counterintuitive to the very concept of public education. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, Gail, and then Christina Lopez. Is Mayor there online? Okay. Mayor, you have to unmute. Oh, I'm now hearing feedback. I think you're unmuted. Oh, you know what? If you're listening to the board meeting, mute that.
Okay, hold on a second.
I've heard this sound before.
Sorry, I'm actually in Maui and I'm multitasking, so thank you for having me on. I'm Mayor Lucas. I'm the parent of a sophomore at Pali. I'm also the co-founder of Sparkiverse Labs, which is a STEM enrichment company that many of your kids probably took classes at after school, and also a parent that lost a child to suicide. So I'm acutely aware of the pressure on our kids today. And I hope that everyone takes a minute to pause and really process that loss. I'm sorry. I love math, but I feel that our school already places enough academic pressure on kids. We have many math classes, AP classes. It's the top school in the country. I'd like us to put some more emphasis on letting kids explore life in high school, take electives. Why do we feel such a need to accelerate these kids? Why do we treat math so differently than other classes? What about art? What about music? What kind of culture are we creating at our schools with this insane amount of pressure that we put our kids? Where's the focus on helping non-STEM kids learn to enjoy math and science? So I'm all for helping the kids that love math, but let's make sure that it's not at the expense of a lot of other kids as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Gail, Christina Lopez, Mary Wheeler. Gail McDowell, are you going to speak?
I'll ask it.
Okay.
Oh, actually, sorry. I'm going to turn over to Dr. Sarah Cody.
Oh boy. Okay. Can we do that? Can we? Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's just make a note that it was Sarah Cody that spoke, not Gail.
All right. Thank you very much.
Hi, Sarah Cody.
Hi.
It's nice to see you here talking about something not having to do with COVID.
I am here as a lifelong Palo Alto resident, a PAUSD alum, and a parent of 2 kids in the district, one who's a junior at Pali. And what I wanted to talk about actually in my role as health officer, we did invite the CDC in 2016 to address concerns around youth suicide and particularly the stress. And this was a concern that came from Palo Alto. And I wanted to reshare some of the findings just as a point of reassurance. The risk factors that we found were kids feeling sad or hopeless, connection to substance use, and the protective factors were positive relationships with family, community, adults at school and academic motivation. And so what I is to sort of hear is every child wants the chance to learn, and throwing up roadblocks for kids who really want to learn math or trumpet or Japanese or whatever it is, I'm concerned may thwart motivation and
Thank you. If you have any more
impede.
comments, we
That's
would
all.
love to hear them.
Thank you so
at Board of
much.
PAUSD. Thank you. Christina Lopez, Mary Wheeler, Lars Johnson. I think everyone else is in person. Please. Christina Lopez, Mary Wheeler,
Hi.
Lars Johnson.
Yep. Can
Oh.
you guys hear me?
Who is
It's
this? Christina
Christina
Lopez?
Lopez.
It says in
Yes,
person.
thank
Okay.
you. So first of all, I'm an immigrant from Brazil, Latina. I have two kids, two girls in the schools, and really against all odds, we are here in Palo Alto. So, when I hear anything related to holding anyone back who's interested in math, and whether it's for my girls or frankly their friends, I'm shocked because there's an awareness of the world of where brilliance and excellence and technology lies, and we're here for that reason. So to be hearing of kids who want to be doing more and cannot tells me then they have to go to private school, they have to hire tutors, and we may not be able to afford that. So how is this helpful? And even if it's not for my girls, I would love for them to be around their friends who are very advanced. So I don't see it as inequitable at all. In fact, I see it as very important for the environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Wheeler, Lars Johnson, Barbara.
Hi, I'm the parent of two middle school girls. They've been in PAUSD since kindergarten. I also have a PhD in the cognitive neuroscience of learning, memory, and attention. I'm here to ask you to please use fair and objective standardized tests for all math placement in middle school. The PAUSD placement process is punitive and wasteful, kids repeating classes, lawsuits that keep coming. The PAUSD placement process holds back our children. The PAUSD placement process is deeply biased. PAUSD allows 2 to 3 times as many boys as girls to accelerate in middle school math year after year. Peer districts accelerate kids equally, regardless of gender. Does the board really think Palo Alto girls are less capable in math than their sisters in Los Altos, than the boys in Palo Alto? This is not equity. This is not a growth mindset. This is shameful.
Thank you. Lars Johnson, Barbara, and then Estelle.
Good evening. 4 years ago, we reimagined middle school math, and tonight we heard from many middle school teachers that it's working. 4 years ago, Dr. Cohen wrote in the Gun Oracle that skipping grade level math is a rare opportunity to challenge oneself and to push one's limits, something which can only be accomplished through external testing, learning. Without citing evidence, Dr. Cohen claimed that 6% of students that skip math are more inspired and confident in high school. 2 weeks ago, we heard from our gun board rep that he skipped math in 8th grade and that ever since 9th grade, he wakes up every day not wanting to go to school because of how much stress math brings him. He called math many parents' pathway to imaginary success in life. This imaginary math pathway these parents are seeking would reinstitute laning in our schools, with all its known stress-inducing side effects on the entire cohort of children. It may benefit a few, but it will hurt a lot more. And this is not a learning environment worthy of PAUSD. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara and then Estelle. And if either Barbara or Estelle is here, if they can share their last name. And if you're online, make sure you have, I don't know, put your whole name and, well, we just have you as Barbara. So just put Barbara and Estelle. Do you see a Barbara or an Estelle? Okay, let me just quickly go to add. Oh, wait, I want to go back to, yep, Lynn Chen, NIL. Are you Estelle? Yeah. Great, oh, good, okay. Let's go to Estelle, and then we'll go back and see if the other two are there.
Okay, thank
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, board members. And it's my first time to be here, and actually it's the first time to participate in such a great session to hear a lot of voice from different parents and students. And I'm an immigrant and very new here actually, and learning everything. And before I joined America, before coming to America, what I learned is American treat the math good students or people as a nerd. That's what I heard is a stereotype for sure. What I want to share is, a lot of students is really passionate about the math, and it's not it's not good to hold them back if they're really passionate about that. And because it's a very simple reason, and mathematics is very fundamental for all kinds of STEM subjects, and also is a basement for the arts, music, and many other subjects. So I really confused why it's happening at the very prestigious district. Thank you so much.
You can send the rest of your comments to board@pausd.org. And we don't have Barbara. And how about Lin Chen and Ayal? No? Great, Lin Chen. You have to unmute. She's there, but is the mute button still there? Yeah. Okay. And there's no Ayal, right? Okay. Last chance. Going once, going twice. Lynn? Okay. We actually are way past half hour. This was the first time that we used this new policy, and some of us interpreted it as we will set a timer for 30 minutes and call up speakers for 1 minute each. And I interpreted it as that means 30 commenters, which means it took a lot more than 30 minutes. So I appreciate your patience. I'm sorry for the people who did not get to comment. I just wanted to note real quickly, you heard from each of our ILs at the middle school, but just wanted to note that our principals are here too. And I think it's really important, this is an important topic. They know how important it is to the community and to their staff. And we know that it's a long day when you're at your sites at 7 a.m. and working through there. So thank you for being there. So usually, I'm the last person to talk on an item, but I'm going to go first tonight because in consultation with legal counsel, they've advised us not to speak because of pending litigation. We understand that feels like a little bit of a poke in the eye if you were really excited to hear some conversation, but we are taking I am taking the advice of legal counsel, and I will check with each of my colleagues to see if they also are. But I want to share everyone, we heard Ms. McDowell's comments and lots of public comment on this issue from all different perspectives, and we will keep it in mind whenever middle school math placement comes up in front of us again sometime in the future. Colleagues, do you have any comments? Mr. Drop, do you have any comments?
I don't. I'm going to take the advice of counsel, but I do want to thank folks who spoke today and want them to know that they're heard. And like President DeBrienza said, I look forward to having the conversation when it's on and appropriate for board discussion.
Okay, Ms. Lettermerrick, Mr. Collins.
I'd like to comment not so much on the merits, but just on the process.
Yep.
Thank you. So first, thanks for everybody who spoke tonight, and I apologize for the people who didn't get a chance to speak. Certainly no actions being taken on this tonight, so if people who didn't get a chance to speak want to write in, that's always a desirable option, and I know those emails get read and considered. So board@pausd.org, as Ms. DeBrienza frequently reminds. And it was great. We had students, parents, teachers, administrators, and all, in my view, working toward the same goal, which is to give our kids the best educational experience we know how. So it's nice to see people rallying around a common goal. From what I hear, it seems like we do a good job meeting the needs of many kids, probably most, but not necessarily all. And I think this kind of input on all sides of the issue is helpful. We changed our middle school program relatively recently, especially in pandemic years. And we're starting to get a better beat on what works and what work better in our middle school program. So I hope the district and school staff take that input to heart and give it appropriate consideration and continue to balance the importance and sometimes conflicting aspects of this issue. We're not a one-size-fit-all district. We've got a wide variety of families, a wide variety of kids, and one of our challenges is trying to meet the very different needs of that wide range of kids and within the constraints of the resources of a public school district. I think we try really hard to do that, and I think this kind of input is useful in helping us do a better job. And, you know, as President DiBrienza said, I think this is an issue that maybe we could revisit sometime in the future when the staff's had an opportunity to review our current program, because that's really what I'm most interested in is less the results of skip tests and, you know, this relatively narrow issue of our kids getting placed in the right, our kids skipping in middle school at the right pace, which is an important issue, but only one issue of very many in middle school math that I'd like to see us consider, and that we did consider when we started the program that we have today. Now, was it 4 years ago? 2019. Yeah, 2019, but, you know, obviously not a lot of non-pandemic years in between now and then. So I hope we have a chance to do that, and I look forward to that discussion. Thank you.
Student board reps, Mr. Pan, do you have any comment? Ms. Saya?
Yeah, if everyone wants to take a deep breath, that was a lot. Breathing is beautiful. This was definitely a very long yet very varied discussion on the math placement. So it was great to hear from everyone. And, you know, as student board reps, we definitely want to hear from more students and see their perspective more on, obviously for the high schools, just seeing where they're at as well. I just want to say as a student, I think we have the right to express our concerns, and notably without getting unwarranted or inappropriate responses. And I hope that our voices are valued as well as heard. I wanted to just quickly give some information, as I believe it will help people feel less confused about this issue. Last board meeting on March 14th, which you can find in the board docs, under information items is information about the math placement. And one document is a fact sheet on Senate Bill 359, the California Mathematics Placement Act of 2015. I will not go over it in depth because you can definitely read it on your own time. But I just wanted to clarify, since I think it would be helpful, that this bill, which was people were concerned about, is about first ensuring that school district with 8th grades and 9th grades to develop, establish, and implement fair, objective, transparent mathematic placement policies to consider multiple objective measures and the basement for placement, and permit multiple checkpoints to assess placement accurately and pupil progress, especially at the start of academic year. So I just read that off, and you're welcome to read the rest of it. So everyone is on the same page about what this bill is about. So first, posting transparency about who is in each lane, and second, about objective testing. And the reason why this bill was introduced is because students, specifically Latino, Black, and Pacific Islander students, were seen to have made to repeat the class in 9th grade of Algebra 1, even though they were proficient in 8th grade. The real equity issue here is that students of color or disadvantaged students are not getting access to grade level math that they scored proficiently in. So seeing that background, I would like to state that the point of this bill, or the point of math placement in this conversation, should be more about getting students to grade level and seeing that disadvantage. Because if we are distracted by only seeing those who are accelerating 1, 2, 3 levels, we are unfortunately not focusing our attention as we should to students who are falling behind their placement while they should be reaching. And that's the real equity issue that I want to call into effect, because I am concerned that when we have our discussions be more centered around higher placement, we lose sight of the inequities that the public school is responsible for, ensuring that these historical racial disparities are branched not just in math, but in so many other aspects. And I know that we had tremendous progress as seen through our SWIFT report, through other reports that I obviously would love to celebrate, because that is something that is often not seen in the community. However, I also want to call attention to the fact that these historical disparities have been here for years and we still have progress to make. And by only focusing on the acceleration of math and focusing on, as Mr. Drop said wonderfully, raising the ceiling as opposed to focusing on the floor, the foundation of our public education, we really are not focusing our attention in the right place. And that makes me feel a little bit frustrated and feel that we need to be reprioritizing our needs. I don't have any hatred towards children who like math, towards students who like math, to those who want to pursue a higher math education. In fact, because of the survey information, if we want people to pursue math, that's about getting people to level. That's about removing the disparities to even bring people to school level. And I know that I lack the background of a teacher, of a principal, of an admin, of an adult, or of a student in advanced math, but I know from my principles that as a public school and as a student, that I want every student to be able to reach their level of math and not have to face the actual discrepancy where they have to repeat a math course that they already were proficient in because of racial disparities. So what's actually being taken away is the equity of people getting to their regular math class. And with this conversation, not only are we forgetting those students, but we are also encouraging a culture that brings accelerated math to the forefront, where math is a priority, where acceleration in math is seen as the most important, and where acceleration begins at a younger and younger age. Obviously, going out of PAUSD, and I know this is very long, so I appreciate you listening. Going out of PAUSD, I felt the pressure of competition, especially as a senior with college, and seeing it, while I have gone through it as years, it still breaks my heart every time that I have to be part of such a toxic culture about math specifically, or about the general competition of getting better and better, or raising that ceiling, or making the standard even higher than it already is. And the conversations we might be forgetting here are students who feel stupid, who feel unintelligent or unimportant for not being in higher math lanes, for students who are not getting the opportunities they deserve because racial disparities getting to their state level standards, and of students who constantly feel pressured by the environment that we need to keep accelerating in math. So I know this is very long, but I invite us to listen to everyone, which I'm sure everyone has done, to read the information on the board docs, which I love reading. So if you want to do some homework, because I think being informed is wonderful. And to approach this conversation with empathy and listening, and ensuring that we're not focusing our attention on those who already have so many opportunities. And I do not want to overgeneralize, but when we constantly shift away conversations such as math placement to students, for example, who are accelerating in math, like 2-3 grades, as opposed to those, which is the whole point of this bill, to instead of those students who are facing racial disparities to reach normal standard of math, that is what really creates a culture of privilege and distracts us from the main goal. So I appreciate you listening to this very long explanation, but I hope that my message went through.
Okay, I think, Mr. Pan, no? Thank you. Yeah, you want to say something? Yeah. Okay, great.
Okay, yeah, that was hard to follow, but mine is a lot shorter. Yeah, so of course, I'd like to echo what Johanna said. Thank you to everyone who spoke today. Of course, as student board representatives, we truly do try to empathize with everyone and every single one of your opinions. And of course, even though I still stand by my point from the last board meeting, I do like to apologize that if it wasn't obvious enough that, of course, I can't represent all gun students. I believe that, yes, of course, there are students that are very interested in math, like Augustia, who spoke earlier, who is one of my friends, I hope. Now, anyway, I will say that, please, everyone here, before speaking against an idea, for an idea, just like to repeat what Johanna said, please research and truly understand the issue and all of the details surrounding it before speaking, because I think miscommunication is a very dangerous virus, and we cannot afford to have that spread during this time. So please listen to district staff, listen to district professionals, listen to math leads, listen to math teachers, and just try your best to listen to the truth through all the noise. So thank you.
Okay, I think that is it for this item. Okay, 5-minute break. We will be back at 8:36 to finish our agenda very quickly.
Go! Yeah, I was gonna say, come on.
That was very,
Dang.
it's almost like that was the end of the meeting. Okay. We are back in session. I don't know, are we good to go? Are we recording? There is no cameraman there. I don't know if we're recording. We're good? Okay, great. Welcome back. Thank you for our quick break. It is 8:37. We are moving on to item 6B, review of Measure A and Z bond program. And there's Mr. Holm right there.
Hello again. Good evening. We're going to put, okay, great. So tonight we wanted to get your feedback on revising our bond project list due to changes that we've experienced on cost overruns on projects, which, you know, several times we've brought to you and said, this is over, here's where we're going to bring the money. Additionally, the change of the Hoover project, when we approved it previously, we said at a future time we'll discuss where the money comes from. We have the HVAC project, which as we've gotten into it, we've experienced that the initial project was for classrooms without HVAC, but when we go to an elementary site, maybe the admin building has had air conditioning for 10, 15 years already, and so we're saying we should replace those with the whole campus. So we're recognizing increasing needs. Additionally, fire alarm projects, we've brought several to you and we've talked about those many times, but we have not had a complete budget comprehensive item. And then some other smaller things. And so really we're looking at increased needs for kind of the invisible stuff that makes the school run. The fire alarms, the utilities, the roofing. This season has been really fun for roof leaks. And so we're proposing putting a pause on the list of projects that was currently planned for the remainder of Measure Z funds, which is on the screen, the items on the right-hand side in gray are items that we want to pause. Of this diagram, everything on the left is what's currently encumbered out of our measure, and the remaining funds we have is $165 million to reallocate. And so we're proposing putting a pause on $163 million and reallocating the money to cover these items that I just addressed. That would leave us, and the other one is when we had originally worked with the BBAC to adjust and find money for the air conditioning project, we cut the playground budgets in half, and we're starting to really look at those playgrounds. We just had a playgrounds assessment done, and they are reaching their end of life much quicker than when we moved the money before. We didn't tie that to a needs assessment. We just said, okay, this is where we'll cut it. So we're recommending putting money back for playgrounds because we're needing to build accessible playgrounds at all our sites, or rebuild the playgrounds and add to the TK playground facilities. So we're looking that after reallocating, we would have approximately $24 million in reserve at that point that could be used to address further deferred maintenance or overages in what we're currently estimating for these new maintenance projects or sort of enhanced capital improvements or capital maintenance type projects. And so that leaves this $163 million as a future unfunded need.
Period.
Period.
Okay, thank you. This is just up for discussion tonight. if we have any questions for Mr. Holm or for your property committee representatives. Does anybody have any comments, questions, thoughts? Mr. Collins?
Yeah, thank you. I have a couple questions. This is a helpful presentation. Thank you. My first question is just a clarification. The document mentions there's a reference to Barron Park taken away by BBAC, and then you just made a reference to BBAC making changes. I just want to clarify, the BBAC hasn't met since 2020 as far as I know. So are you referring to the property committee or?
No, this is just listing, because we're looking at what the previous list was, it's really kind of a reminder. If someone were to say, why isn't Barron Park on here? That was actually removed from the list as part of the BBAC process that developed the recommendation for HVAC projects. Part of that, at the time, the BBAC said, we recommend shifting to HVAC, and the way we would do that is by cutting this project out of the list. At the time, they cut the Barron Park project, which was the Barron Park master plan.
So sorry, can I just interrupt you? So, I mean, the BBAC doesn't make decisions.
That was the recommendation.
So
that came forward.
Yeah, that came forward. That was
when we approved the AC, we said, these are the changes we have to make it work. That wasn't the only thing cut. There were like.
The other one was $7 million for playgrounds that was cut. There was some
could you do me a
incidentals.
favor, Mr. Holm,
Sure.
and find me that item and just send me the reference to
Yeah,
that
no problem.
item so I can review it? That would be useful, because I'm a little confused on the timing, because when I looked on board docs, it looked like the BBAC hadn't met in 3 years. So
It hadn't. Yeah.
It was the original recommendation.
It was the original. It's just a sort of an asterisk reminder of that was pulled out when that entire recommendation was made. And
okay,
so,
if you can just send me the item, that would be great. Thank you. I guess the second thing is, two observations. One is that, when we advertise the Measure Z bond, one of the things that we promoted it as is that it was going to address the elementary schools, since the Measure A had not addressed most of the elementary schools. So looking at where we stand today, between Measure A, which did do projects at Fairmeadow, Duveneck, and Ohlone, it looks like in Measure Z, we're now hitting El Carmelo, Escondido, Hoover, Palo Verde, and Addison. Is that right?
that's correct.
Okay, and so that leaves 3 schools, if I got it right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I must be missing one. So Briones, Barron Park, and Nixon. Oh, and Hayes. And Hayes we had purposely deprioritized at some point. I remember we had a meeting where we specifically did that because of attendance areas in the North Cluster.
We actually paused that.
Yeah.
And it's on the list here as part of in the grayed out zone. Hayes is one of those listed.
Right. So Briones, Barron Park, and Nixon are the 3 that have not been touched between the 2. So, I think on the one hand, as somebody who lives in Barron Park, to hear that Briones and Barron Park are not the beneficiaries of our essentially 20-year building program is a little disappointing to hear, and I think that's an issue that we ought to try to understand better and figure out if that's what we intended and that's what we want. Nixon deserves funding too. Nixon is probably 20 years, in some cases 25 years newer than, it is the newest building in PAUSD. From a school start point of view, I believe it opened in 1970. So it is substantially newer than a number of the other buildings that we're talking about. But in terms of our commitment to do projects at the elementary schools to address elementary school needs, I do think substantially if we carry through with what we planned, we've done that. I don't know if I would be thrilled with the result, but I would be able to look somebody in the eye and say that I would feel comfortable having campaigned for this bond that we carried through on on the commitment that we made to put money toward elementary school projects. The one other consideration this is mostly, I think, directed at the board members, is because it looks to me like these projects will be substantially done in 2 or 3 years. So now it's 2023, that would make them basically done in 2026. The last bond was passed in 2018. the bond before that in 2008, the bond before that in 1996. So we kind of established a rhythm in the community that we did these every 10 years or so. This will make it in a shorter, if we wanted to continue the program at the speed it's been going since 2008, or at any speed at all, we would need to pass a bond sooner than that. If we do that, we also run into consideration that at some point, and I can't remember which year, maybe Ms. Chow can remind me, we'll need to renew the parcel tax. The parcel tax 6 years or 7, I can't remember. 6, and we passed that in 2020. So we have a parcel tax renewal in 2026, and we've got these projects also finishing up in approximately 2026. So we run into an issue where if left to the normal course of events, we might find ourselves going back, and it wouldn't be ourselves, well, at least it wouldn't be me, some future board and future staff going to the community and asking for both hundreds of millions of dollars of additional bond money and a renewal of the parcel tax, which I think the next parcel tax renewal may be one of the more interesting in the last bunch of years, because traditionally our parcel taxes have grown as the district has grown. The last parcel tax was held flat as the district was slightly down. Now the next time we go, the district's going to be substantially smaller than it was at its peak, and I imagine there'll be people who are saying, you know, why don't we give them less money, because we'll try to keep the money per pupil the same. So I just think it's where whoever's on the board in 2026 is going to have some work cut out for them to think through how to position these to the community and how to sell it to the community, and to make sure that the community feels that we've been good stewards of their generosity in terms of the parcel tax and the bond. And I don't think, you know, if I had my druthers and I had a time machine, I might go back 3 or 4 years, and my suggestion might be go a little slower and have it end a couple years later. But we are where we are, and we got the projects faster, and, you know, there's certainly merit to the approach that we took. But I do think that that's a situation we haven't passed before that I think will, you know, tax our imaginations, or tax the imaginations of future board members when we come around to it in a couple of years. That's all I got. Thank you.
I'll just comment because it's related to what you just said. I think 2026 is kind of optimistic that these projects would last that long. I had a different year in mind, but the agenda setting committee is going to take up I think a conversation about when would we agendize the possibility of asking staff to plan out, you know, some timing proposals on something like a next bond, given what we've got.
I mean, so if I could just, I think that sounds like, thank you, sorry. That sounds like a good idea. I personally don't think there's a big rush on that. I think the issue, it isn't going to be a whether we do Prop 39 bonds require 55% to pass. I almost can't imagine a world where a Prop 55 bond does not pass in Palo Alto. And most Prop 55 bonds in the Bay Area, Mr. Golden used to quote the number, it was something like 90% of them pass. So I think the Prop 55 bond that's something to think about. The other issue, but the big issue, is to think about it in terms of the parcel tax. Because I think hitting the ballot with both of those in a short period of time creates a challenge with the community.
Okay, other comments, questions about this? Ms. Lodemeyer?
I had very similar comments, so I think Mr. Collins has got it, and we'll take it up in agenda setting.
Great. Okay, Ms. Siegel. Mr. Darup.
Oh, thank you. Just to make life easier for Mr. Holm and to answer Mr. Collins' question, it was the February 9th meeting of the board where BBAC came to the board. There's a long item, and there's a specific attachment that has the list of projects.
2020.
2021.
2021.
2021?
February 2021 was when it was approved. I think it came to us
we
multiple times for discussion before then.
And then COVID, and we didn't talk about it for a while. Okay.
Right. BBAC made the decision. I think BBAC made the recommendation in the summer of 2020, and then it came to the board in February 21.
Okay, great. Okay, student board reps, any comments, questions? Great. Okay, so I think that we're moving on from this one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, 6C, Elementary grades, TK, Young Fives. Oh,
Ms.
been waiting
Brown
a
can
very long
introduce.
time.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Austin. After piloting the English Language Arts curricula last year, committee feedback regarding phonemic awareness revealed a need for more robust phonemic awareness curriculum to be added to the Orton-Gillingham methodology being used at TK2. At last year's May 4th, 2022 special board meeting, staff recommended that a pilot of the Hegarty phonemic awareness in grades TK to second grade be conducted during this school year. Tonight, we're sharing the elementary English Language Arts Supplemental Materials Review Committee's recommendations for adoption. I'd like to turn things over to Ms. Faust, one of our elementary teachers on special assignment, who facilitated much of the committee work and will share the recommendations. Ms. Faust?
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Good evening, board members. The committee's charge was to select a phonemic awareness supplemental instructional material that met the following 5 goals to ensure robust instruction and foundational reading skills for our earliest learners in grades TK Young 5s through 2nd. Nancy Young's ladder of reading and writing illustrates our need to ensure that all students have the necessary early skills to reach reading proficiency. Phonemic awareness is the understanding that letters have sounds and therefore a prerequisite skill before children can learn to combine letter sounds to make words known as phonics. The committee included 9 members across the district representing teachers, specialists, parents, and district leadership from every grade level, TK through 2. During the materials review and through the pilot committee, members evaluated the curriculum materials, focusing on the 4 criteria based upon the early literacy component of the PAUSD promise: reading components, phonological awareness, and early literacy, instructional practices and implementation, assessment, equity, and access. As you can see, the committee's feedback was very positive. Hegarty phonemic awareness rated good to excellent. Piloting teachers stated that it is direct and efficient, only taking 10 minutes per day. As a result, the committee unanimously recommends the adoption of the Hegarty phonemic awareness curriculum as a supplement for phonological awareness instruction in grades TK Young 5s to 2. The estimated financial impact for the first year is $58,000 and then $11,000 for every year after. These funds have been set aside during the budget assumptions process to purchase the recommended supplemental materials, resources, and professional development provided by the publisher. The committee thanks you for your consideration in approving this supplemental curriculum to provide a robust, structured literacy foundation in grades TK Young 5s through 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Faust. This item is being presented for your discussion tonight, and approval is going to be requested at our next board meeting. You can answer any questions you have now.
Great. Colleagues, any questions? Ms. Siegel?
I don't have a question. I just wanted to say that I am in full support, hearing that the committee unanimously recommends this, and the committees with teachers and reading specialists and community members. So thank you, teachers. Thank you, specialists. Thank you, Leslie, for your hard work, because this clearly is going to benefit all of our students.
Ms. Ledemaric, Mr. Collins, any comments?
Yes, if I may.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks for this. I mean, Hegarty, I think, is the most widely used supplement in all of California for elementary ELA. So it is, and my understanding is it's, if not the gold standard, certainly one of the gold standards for phonemic awareness, which obviously is a critical foundational skill. So this seems like an easy call, and I really appreciate the committee recommending something that's so easy to say yes to.
Mr. Darup, any comments?
No comments. Thank you.
Student board reps. Okay, I love when a committee meets and does all this work and comes up with a recommendation, and I am super excited to support it next time. Thank you. Thanks to everyone who worked on the committee for all their work. Thanks. Okay, 6D, draft budget assumptions.
Okay, I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Chow to lead us through just a couple new pieces for you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Austin. So we have continued to move forward with the budget development for the district's budget for the 23-24 year. And the changes that I'll be sharing with you this evening represent the conclusion of our priority enrollment, updates through registration services, as well as the conclusion of staffing meetings with all principals. This includes elementary as well as secondary principals. Additionally, it includes the proposal that we heard at the last board meeting concerning staffing changes or additions for the school-based mental health and wellness program. So what we are seeing on this slide here, the additions are the last two lines which are italicized, and that is the addition of the district wellness specialist, as well as the expansion of school-based mental health. These were the positions that were proposed at the last board meeting. This brings the proposed cost for the budget adds to $1.6 million. And if we can go to the next slide, thank you. We see here also the changes that from what we saw at the last meeting are also italicized. Now that we have confirmed our staffing meetings with the principals, we now have a firmer set of numbers and as to what our decline in staff will be as as our enrollment dips a bit. So the decline on the elementary side at this point of time is looking like a decrease of 1 FTE. And then on the secondary side, it is down to a savings of 3 FTE where it was higher when we first started the process. We're also looking at the discontinuation of contracted services that we're providing mental health at our high schools because we are moving to an in-house model. So we will discontinue that contract. So our total savings or budget offsets are $1.1 million, and this represents, I believe, what we will be moving forward with. I think we are this is a pretty solid draft, and we will be bringing this back to the board in our April meeting for approval. Thank you.
Questions? Yes.
Does it include, as of now, reinstating the bus route for Stanford West families? Is there room for that in the budget? I just have that question.
So the additional bus drivers for those 2 paid routes is and has been in the budget. It's not being able to provide that service is not a budget matter. It simply is a matter of finding staff to fulfill those services. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, comments? Student board reps, yes, Mr. Pan.
Yeah, I had a quick question because I think 2 weeks ago, there was a couple of gun students that came to speak about electric school buses. I'm not sure if this is a budget issue, but I was wondering if the bus drivers that will be hired will be driving electric buses or gas-powered ones.
That's going to be dependent on staff. So we do have the buses that we are going to be receiving, the electric buses, are the larger buses. We have a variety of buses in the fleet. So we have smaller buses and we have the larger buses. And drivers bid on the various routes. And so some of them prefer to drive a smaller bus. Some of them prefer to drive the larger bus, and then some of them, would be in line to drive the electric buses. It's the routes are chosen based on seniority of the staff.
Mr. Drop, I'm sorry, I skipped you. Did you have any comments?
I did not. Thank you. Oh, well, I was sort of chuckling because for those of you who remember Dr. Golton, whenever we used to have a construction item on, he used to say, a bond item, you say, this item has been before the board, 30 times in the past. And I feel that way about budget assumptions in a good way, which is that we get to see this so many times and be involved in the process that by the time it gets to us for the umpteenth time in the form that it's in, I feel very satisfied in not making a comment, although I have now, knowing that input's been taken into account and it's studied for a great deal of time. So thank you, Ms. Chow, for that.
I wasn't going to have a comment, but it made me laugh just thinking back to how we used to do this budget and how if we had to make a budget cut, we just saw the budget and we went around saying, I think we should cut this. I think we should cut that. And it was a little ridiculous. So I'm really grateful that is no longer the way we do it. I am glad we rely on the professionals to give us guidance over what makes sense to them. And I think that, I mean, I can't imagine the community knows this, but if my understanding is right how it works, because I'm not in the room, that your whole cabinet sits down and talks about this budget and makes sure that what everyone else is getting and, you know, what is going to every department and why and justification, and everyone's on board with it. So it's not, no one's fighting each other for dollars, and no one who's in this building is wondering, like, I don't know where that's coming from. So it seems like a really healthy way to do a budgeting process. And I agree with Mr. Darup. We've seen this many times, and it's really nice to just have like, oh, you've seen me, and here's a change, and here's why. And so thank you so much for that.
Just
really
quickly, if I can just add
Correct
one
me.
quick point. First of all, the old budgeting that you mentioned was 6 years ago. And just want to make sure that's out there.
Yes.
And next, I just don't want it to be lost, because we are efficient now and we do go quickly, that our commitment to mental health is unparalleled. And what is on this assumption, we'll be coming back to you with a little more detail, is now mental health professionals and services specifically for our staff. There aren't many places in the entire state that are doing that. And I just don't want to lose sight of some of these things in our efficiency, that we miss some of these really kind of special things. And we will be bringing that back as a standalone, but it is in here tonight. We'll have more information bringing it back, but we also knew that this board would support anything related to mental health, which is also very nice. So not only do we have the support, we have the creativity and the people bringing it forward, and we are blessed to be here where we have the resources to move on things that are true priorities. So that was it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's move on to our staff reports.
Yes, I'm going to be, well, I was going to say I was going to bring Dr. Che up, but hey, she's already there. But I do just want to frame this up for you quickly. What we're asking the board to do tonight, not everything that you see before you is necessarily a recommendation. I forget what we landed on as far as what we were going to call it, but it's not necessarily a list of recommendations. These are things that we'd like your thoughts on tonight. We do not have a lot of detailed explanations of these items tonight, but there might be some things that resonate that you might ask us to bring back, or ask a couple quick questions. There might be some things that you have no interest in discussing further, and that's fine too. But that's for the night.
Great.
Okay, Dr. Che.
Thank you. We're calling it proposed options. Yeah. So ad hoc committee, just to give a little bit of a background, is a short-term committee designed to make recommendations for complex issues, leveraging diverse viewpoint within a given time period. We established 8 short-term ad hoc committee during the first semester and 4 during the second semester, totaling 12. So far, 7 committees have completed their charge. Out of the 7, 3 of them, athletic funding, childcare, and secondary bell schedule committees, have already made their recommendations to the board, and you will also hear from the enrollment trend and options committee tonight. The remaining 4 committees that started in the fall, which are consent education, self-advisory, choice program, serve and celebrate others, are finalizing their recommendations and that they're going to be making to the board. Also, there are 4 new committees, dual enrollment, English learner programming and outcomes, student behavior support, and mental health, which began in spring and are running at full speed. We have about 80 ad hoc committee meetings scheduled for this school year to cover 12 complex topics. We would like to thank over 170 members contributing their time and diverse viewpoints to build consensus on these topics. Tonight, Ms. Bimson, who has been leading the Enrollment and Trend Options Committee, will present a list of options for the board to review and prioritize. With that, I would like to turn it over to Ms. Bimson.
Great. Good evening. It's nice to be up here to speak with you tonight. My name is Katie Bimson. I'm proud to be the principal at Juana Briones School, and I had the distinct pleasure of leading a synergistic and proactive diverse committee in arriving at the proposed options that I'll be sharing this evening with you. We were asked to consider that declining enrollment is an issue that requires our attention. We'll either creatively address things like combination classes or embrace them and embrace their reality. School closures are a last resort, but are on the table without a sustainable plan. With this consideration in mind, we were charged to prepare a series of options to address declining enrollment through open discussion and thoughtful debate that honors diverse perspectives for consideration by the board. Everything is up for consideration and thoughtful debate. Our committee did a good job staying focused on our charge, and this was important whenever we got into robust discussion. We would remind ourselves that we are proposing options, not making recommendations. Our committee had 18 members in all. I called on the administrators who participated in the committee to help select parents from the 22 who applied. We selected a diverse group of 4 that spanned 12 schools altogether. We had PTAC representation in addition to the members seen on this slide, including our 2 board members tonight, Ms. Ladomeric and Mr. Collins. We met 5 times between September and January. We spent a good deal of our initial meeting time establishing a safe environment in which we could share diverse perspectives and ideas authentically. We conducted a bias check, reviewed historical background and data regarding declining enrollment, which included administrative regulations and board policy around admission, district residency, enrollment boundaries, interdistrict attendance, and enrollment transfers, as well as notes and outcomes from the most recent enrollment committee work that had been previously done. We then brainstormed options in an open brainstorm format to ensure that we captured all ideas and developed a set of 10 criteria through which to vet the options that included ensuring the option had a direct and positive effect on retaining or increasing enrollment or equitable distribution of current students. Criteria also included pros, cons, logistics, risks and dependencies, timelines, costs, data used to determine the options, PAEA contractual considerations, and possible next steps. Site leaders on the committee put forth some of the larger scale options to their staff for additional feedback. The committee then reviewed the feedback and from staff and discussed the strengths and challenges of the options, leveraging the vetting criteria we had developed. Through this process, the committee reached consensus on selecting the options. We began with 20, brainstormed ideas, and narrowed them to the following list. Because school closure is a last resort, we did not include it on the list. However, we acknowledge that it's always an option. Here are the options as they appear in alphabetical order. Consider adjusting or expanding the residential boundaries. Consider both embracing and eliminating combination classes. Consider creating an early enrollment deadline and moving any new or late registrants to schools with space. Consider expanding language immersion programs. Consider a themed school model for Ohlone and Hoover, where they would become neighborhood schools with a theme and hold a percentage of lottery seats. Consider inviting full-time Palo Alto City employees to bring their children to PAUSD through a lottery system. Consider merging Barron Park and Briones into one school with 2 campuses, where one of the campuses is an upper grade campus with 3rd through 5th graders, and the other campus is a lower campus with TK through 2nd grade. Consider reducing the FTE percentage required for PAUSD employees to bring their children to our district schools. Our committee engaged in a number of productive, robust conversations about these options. We realize that each option is complex and presents different questions, logistics, and choices. And detailed notes from our discussions can be found on the PAUSD website. It was truly a pleasure working with every member of this committee, and I thank each of them for their thoughtful participation. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. I'm going to tell you that after all that remarkable work taking comments at both open forum and the math item, I went right past Meb Steiner, who wanted to speak about the budget assumptions. So we are going to pause and go back to Meb for 2 minutes, and then we'll resume this conversation. Sorry, Meb. But she gets 2 minutes, yeah, okay. If she's still there. Did she give
I'm
up on me?
still here.
Thanks,
Yes,
ma'am,
thank
sorry.
you. No worries about skipping. It's not a problem, and budget assumptions will come again, so I could touch upon it. I just wanted to touch very briefly on sort of connecting several pieces we have here tonight. Meb Steiner, president of CSEA, also special ed aid. I'm connecting our transportation plan that was in the consent calendar, consent agenda, and pointing out that it refers to when we reopen those historical paid routes. And that plan is, of course, created to get the estimated $1.73 million in reimbursement for transportation costs. Of course, many open forum comments today, but also in previous meetings, clear interest from the community to reinstate those routes. Clear interest, I think, from our district to reinstate those routes. Very happy to hear that we have those driver positions for those routes in the budget, and hope that we will just move forward with reinstating them. I do want to emphasize the little budget assumption about the increased benefit piece and thank Ms. Chow for including that, and also for the approval of that, which did help in recruiting bus drivers from our previous plan with the 5 hours. So we've done some very good work on trying to improve our competitive status for a very hard job to fill. But I urge us to really step up the game because I think we need to do this. It is a huge impact. And I just want to say thank you for the past work. And I look forward to continuing to work with Ms. Chow and Mr. Ramirez on supporting our transportation department and meeting the needs of all of our students throughout our district. Thank you.
Okay, Meb, don't go far because you're our first commenter for this item. You ready for another 2 minutes or do you need a minute? Maybe she didn't even hear me because she was like,
nope, I heard you.
Oh, great.
Still here.
Okay.
Just, I had to hit the unmute button. So Meb Steiner again. Again, I start off with a huge thank you for this committee's work, but also for the many committees. I also want to specifically shout out any of our classified staff who have participated in the ad hoc committees. I think their perspectives are really valuable. I did send the board an email about this item as well. I am in full support of this option of reducing the FTE for our classified staff because it does 3 things. It is a wonderful incentive for our staff. It is a recruitment and retention tool that that our amazing district is available for them. But one of the biggest points I want to highlight is sort of the inequities that come up. Most classified jobs are part-time positions, and the majority of them are 0.75 FTEs or less. And we have elementary sped aides who will never get more than a 0.75 job, but our secondary special ed aides can qualify with higher FTE. So we have folks kind of doing the same job, but supporting different age groups. So bridging that equity gap by lowering the FTE would certainly be very, very helpful. And the last thing is, it does certainly address some of our enrollment issues. I mean, I don't see some sort of mad rush. A lot of people want to have their kids in their neighborhood schools where they live. Many live far away, but this is certainly a wonderful, wonderful benefit that we can offer employees. So I just want to urge us to look at it more closely. Thank you.
Thank you. If we have one more comment from Ed Shikata. Don't go too far. We'll probably have questions for you.
Thank you, Board President and members of the board. Ed Shikata, Palo Alto City Manager. Really my pleasure to be with you this evening and your lively meeting tonight. On behalf of the city, I would like to thank you for allowing a member of our staff to participate on this important committee. This participation has allowed us to better understand some of the challenges that the district is contending with while continuing our ongoing partnership. In particular, we do appreciate and support the option enabling the city employees' children in PAUSD schools. This is an important option to consider for many reasons, including the district and the city serve the same constituents, and this program would deepen the connection between our employees and the community they serve. Our city employees range from police and fire and utilities, public works, planning, and a variety of community services. That said, we only anticipate a modest number of students would be involved. A recent survey of our city employees with school-aged children indicated that only about 20% expressed an interest, translating into about 100 students district-wide. As commuters, these employees would have flexibility on assignment to campuses that best benefit the school district and ensure appropriate distribution. And finally, the city and the district have a long-standing relationship through programs such as the Safe Routes to School, Crossing Guards, athletics, and other programs. So we really do see this as similarly a long-term workforce attraction and retention strategy that would allow us to get talented employees that can build the institutional knowledge that really serves the Palo Alto community. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, colleagues. Questions, comments, thoughts? I know some of you are on this committee, so you might not have a whole lot of questions. Okay, let's see. Mr. Drop, do you have any questions?
Yeah, it's a process question. So having reviewed the recommendations, what's our next step here as a board? What do we do?
Yeah, why don't you help with that?
I can help with that. I'll even get the ball rolling. We'd like some preliminary thoughts. And again, we don't have to comment on each of the bullets. Some of this we can bring up through agenda setting. But I would state our staff position on at least two. First of all, with the our own current employees, we would fully support Meb Steiner's and CSEA's request to drop that to 75% for the exact reasons that she outlined. And Ms. Steiner and I had already discussed that, and that has full staff support. We think that that's something we'd like to bring back for potential action. We do see these as standalone, quick items. We are going to ask that you vote on majority of these, if not all, although you may not even see all of these coming back. Second, staff supports the city's request, and through the committee, we would be most interested in knowing potential timelines that you might think are appropriate. If this is something that you'd like us to fast track to bring back for something in the fall of this next year, which would be fast, but we would take your direction on that. If that's something that you'd say think we're in favor, but we'd like to slow, go a little slower, maybe prepare for the following year. Third, and I only have three, the third one that I think is probably pretty pressing is that if we do want to prioritize those who are here to register their students for next year first and essentially hold on later registrations, knowing that the pros and cons are as follows. The pros are we could eliminate, well, I should not say eliminate, we could reduce combination classes by taking the families who come in later and placing them in the nearest school possible that does not create another combo and could potentially reduce a combo. Obviously, the con is you could buy a house or take possession of a house very near a school and be told that that's not your school. I can tell you, coming from a district that did that, it works as far as the pro piece, and the con piece is, there's a downside. You could move it across the street and you're excited, be told you're not going there. Now, historically, and I don't want to get too deep into this topic, but historically, when families do that, they're not always happy initially and almost always refuse future opportunities to go back to that school across the street because they feel good about where they're at. Those are pros and cons. I think when I look at this list, I think those are the three at the top of the list that we should really consider. That's my opinion. It's up to you.
Okay, Mr. Drop, I hope that answers your question. There's sort of three potential top of the list asks about sort of are we interested in proceeding with any of those and at what speed? And then any other thoughts you have?
Great, thank you. Okay, yeah, I'm supportive of all three to make that easy. And I'm, I don't know what the reason would be not if the board decides to have city employees' children come into our district, and as City Manager Shiketa said, we're all part of the same community. It seems reasonable for us to do that, especially considering that it is a pretty small number. If we wanted to do that, and if the board decides to do that, I'm not sure why we would wait on that. So if there are thoughts that my colleagues have on why we might wait on that, otherwise I would say, why not just move forward for this next fall? That's all. I'll hear what my colleagues have to say. I might have more questions, Dr. Cabranza, but I don't now.
Okay, do either one of you have anything about those three items specifically that came up in the group or that you have thoughts yourself?
I have thoughts on some of those and more generally.
Awesome, go.
Okay. First of all, I wanted to say that, speaking for myself, and I think for every single member of the group, we all thought Ms. Bimson was a fabulous leader for this group and really did a great job
You're gonna
with.
make her cry.
I know
it's not hard,
she
but
was,
you're gonna make her cry.
she was great. And it was a pleasure. I'm not a person who really loves committee work, but this was a very well-run committee, so really, and I know every single person on the committee felt the same. The problem that I think we spent some time talking about what specific problem we were trying to solve. And I think the most important problem, and this is speaking for myself, but I think represents a sense of the group, is that some of the elementary schools were becoming so small that they were becoming difficult to operate. And operationally, I think that effectively means when they go below 2 strands. And I think in many districts, people would say anything below 3 strands was crazy. In Cupertino, I think anything less than 3 or 4 is way subscale. But the idea of operating a school within, for those who aren't familiar, a strand is a K through 6 number of students. It's about 125 students. So a 2-strand school would be 250 students. That's sort of the minimum efficient scale. And so we've got, I think, 2 schools, one school today that's below 250, substantially below at Barron Park. Briones is pretty close. What are you at now?
277.
277, so pushing on it. And we've got, and I don't know where Hayes is now, but we've got a number of schools that are headed in that direction. So the main thinking behind this committee is that, what are we going to do about that? Are we going to be able to rearrange the kids so that we can keep the schools at an efficient scale? And the other thing that was proximate is whenever this is worse, the most noticeable at the small schools, but also at others, is increasing numbers of combo classes, multi-age classes, which, while very common in the world, were formerly not very common in PAUSD and are becoming more common as the schools shrink and it becomes necessary for class formation to have these combo classes, and parents are surprised by them, and they don't know what to make of them, and so we're trying to address those 2 problems, which are interrelated problems. I think the things that Dr. Austin called out, the early enrollment deadline, the FTE adjustment, and the city employees, all 3 kind of went to, well, the last 2 go to getting slightly more kids into the system. By my estimate, it would probably be less than 1% of our total enrollment. So not, Mr. Shikata, and thanks so very much, City Manager Shikata, for coming to the meeting. We really appreciate your showing. 100 students it's meaningful in this particular problem, but it's not that meaningful in the context of overall PAUSD. And the FTE adjustment to increase employee eligibility, I haven't seen an estimate for that, but I don't expect that would be a huge number. Trent, do you have any sense?
Not off the top of my head, but I do think, as Ms. Steiner mentioned, there are some people that have not been able to bring their children here. I do think it is, that we will get some students and families that will be here definitely. But we can survey. And
But for
pull that.
context, the total number of students that come from employees today, if I remember, is about 200. So we have about 200, about 2% of all employees, of all students today come from PAUSD employees, and this would be a relatively small increment over the current 2%. So a pretty modest number. So both of those things that to me seem like, useful tools, especially since, and not I think most people at the board know this, but maybe not everybody, is that students that are, that come to us from employees who are not residents of the district generally go where we want them to go, as opposed to being assigned to a neighborhood school because they're not residents of the community. And that really helps us put enrollment where the enrollment is, or capacity is available, and where the numbers will help us form classes better and have a more efficient school. So that all makes sense to me. With the city employees, I think one of the things that came up in the committee that I think is a real important consideration, I mean, some people said, gosh, why should city employees get for free what people in Palo Alto all pay dearly for with property taxes and parcel taxes? Even if you're a renter, you're paying your landlord's property tax. And the answer is we have a very substantial relationship with the city that involves a lot of financial put and takes on both sides. And Mr. Shikata, at city school liaison meetings I've been in the past, and I've seen city council members do this too, have a spreadsheet they like to wave that says, these are all the things that we do for you. And and they do. I joke about it, but it's true. There's a big number of things that the city does. And, there are no rules about this. In other communities, sometimes the city pays for crossing guards, sometimes the school district pays for crossing guards. Sometimes things like our Safe Routes to School group, sometimes that's a city function, sometimes it's a district function, sometimes it's a combination. Yeah, so it's middle school athletics, which in many places are run by middle schools, and some places are run by the city, and some places are run by third parties. There are no rules about how these things are set up. This is just the way we've come to them in Palo Alto. And the city over time has done a real solid job contributing to the well-being of the school district and the communities that we serve by doing their part. So I would view this as part of that, not as a one-off thing where we're giving something to them. This is part of an overall long-term perpetual relationship between two partners who serve the same constituents. And, would factor into these various economic gives and takes that we've had over the years. So I think that's a sensible thing, and whether it could be done next year or it should be future, I think that's really up to staff, what's most practical. I don't think, let me finish and then we can go back to it. The early enrollment deadline, I think, is very important, and I don't think the board needs any, I don't think you need any direction from the board to do that. It may not be that you don't need anything at all. But the idea was there are many people who are surprised, and I think we see it from the district point of view, where we're scrambling a little bit as school starts to get final class formation. The way parents experience that is they show up the day before school and they find out they're in a combo class. And they didn't know, and they wonder why they didn't know, and they think they would have made different decisions maybe if they had known something earlier. Now, maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't, but they certainly feel that way. They feel blindsided. And the fact is that we didn't necessarily know they were going to be in a combo class because we're trying to accommodate latecomers at their neighborhood school. And so the question is, you have to... We are, yeah. So we're trying, we have to pick your poison, right? Are you going to make unhappy people who people who registered early, but then find out at the last minute it wasn't what they thought they were registering for? Or do you make unhappy people who show up late and don't necessarily get their neighborhood school? And so, you're you got to pick your poison. And I think that's a very valid consideration. And frankly, there's no right answer to that. Both of those groups are deserving of the best outcome they can get. But I do think one makes our district more predictable and easier to run. And I would probably lean toward that one. I also very much had the experience that Dr. Austin described, where I've known many, many people. As Ms. DeBrienza knows, and probably everybody knows, we used to overflow many more kids than we overflow today. And so that we have lots of experience with kids who are overflowed. And what Dr. Austin said was my almost universal experience is they never want to go back. They love the school they get overflowed to. And I remember board member Camille Townsend, who we all remember fondly. I forget where she lived, but somewhere over on the south side of town, and her kids went to Nixon because she was overflowed. And that, as everybody knows, that's not an easy way to commute. She would never have traded her Nixon experience for anything. She loved it. Her kids loved Nixon. They had a great experience. So, you know, if that helps our district run more smoothly, I think that makes a no-brainer. The one other that I'd want to put a pitch in for is, and I don't know if this is this may not be the right forum to talk about it, is the theme school for some of the choices, for our current choice schools. Because that, you know, as we've talked before, choice schools intrinsically are taking an option away from a neighborhood to give that option to people all over the city. We're taking away capacity. And, you know, the canonical example we always give is, here's a kid who lives across the street from the choice school but doesn't get in. You know, whiffs on the lottery, and so is now going to some other school somewhere else because he couldn't get into the school across the street. I think there was a lot in the committee, and I was both on the choice committee and the early enrollment and the enrollment committee. And I think there were lots of people on both those committees that felt, you know, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound like the right kind of policy value decision. So I would be very happy to see, and there, you know, in the choice school committee, there were also discussions about how choicey are our schools and do they meet the criteria in board policy. And that's why I say this isn't necessarily a discussion for this forum, because I think that's a different set of questions. But I do think if we move in that direction with and I think we're talking about particularly Ohlone and Hoover, that it may actually make our capacity management problems a little better, because instead of absorbing capacity into choice schools, we're now distributing it back to the neighborhoods that the kids reside in, which makes it easier for us to manage. So anyway, that's, sorry to go on and on, but in general, I'm supportive of what Dr. Austin suggested, and I wanted to give some context around those things.
Ms. Lederer.
Yes, I'm generally supportive too, and I just want to make two quick piggyback comments on what Mr. Collins said, because I also was on the committee. When we talk about the early registration date, that's one of the things we talked about a lot. And Mr. Collins spoke to the combo class issue and how this would help minimize combo classes. Another conversation that came up a lot on the committee was how disruptive it was for the school staff, for principals to all of a sudden, a week before school started, be like, I got an extra classroom, or I have less classroom, I got to deal with this combo class, and just sort of all the staff was like, yes, could we know earlier? This is how many classes you're going to have in each grade and be done. So I think, for me, my feeling is this is a staff decision, but it certainly seemed to me that there were a lot of pros for moving up this date. So the second just quick comment I want to make is around city employees. And I don't think this is violating our norms to tell the story, but stop me if you think I do. We talked about this a lot, and there was one parent on the committee in particular who was very adamantly against city employees. And he sort of made the argument that Mr. Collins made about, why are we giving them something for free that we all pay for? And Mr. Collins and I did our very best. We explained the finances, we sort of went, and he, you know, sort of listened to us, but didn't. You could tell he was skeptical of us. He was very polite, but skeptical. Anyways, on his own, because this committee was so fantastic and everybody on it was so fantastic, on his own, he went back and he checked his biases. And he talked to his parent group, his friends, and he was like, hey, this was something we're talking about in the committee. And he came back to us and he said, I was wrong. I asked a bunch of parents, they said to me, of course we should let city employees come to our schools. So he said, I was wrong. You're right, we should do this. So that, to me, I thought was just very illustrative of the fact that, of the committee, and the fact that this, on its face, when you really dig into it, it makes a lot of sense. And even people who don't see it at first may change their mind.
I have a question. So with certificated teachers, we have tenure. I know that my child would get to stay at the school because your job is very stable. So I do have just a question about city employees. If a city employee were to lose his or her job, would that child have to leave that school?
I would imagine that you would all come back with those details of the proposal, right?
Yeah, and my gut is that we would mirror what we do with our employees, which is if they separate from us, that privilege is gone, minus senior privilege.
Minus senior privilege, that's interesting.
seniors get to finish.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything else?
I just want to add, I'm in full support of our PAUSD employees at 0.75%. I think it's so important for our teachers to be able to have their children go to school in this district, ideally at the schools where they teach, to make it easier when the kid is age appropriate. And also I support the early the registration, where if those who register on time, and then if you enter late, and I know that there are pros and cons, but, you know, I did hear from a lot of parents in the community who found out, you know, as we talked about the day before, that their child was in a combo class. And that's also, as we mentioned, difficult on teachers. It's difficult on principals. So I think overall that's beneficial for the community. I would like to hear more about city employees and how, because I do know, being a teacher and being a parent, how when a student starts a school and makes friends, I want to embrace options that allow for students to start a school and stay at a school, right, unless the parent moves. And so I want to understand more about that one.
Great. Okay, students, do you guys have anything to add? Okay, thanks. I've got just a few quick thoughts. I'm looking at the hour here. About the 75% for PAUSD staff, yes. City staff, I think for sure, in my mind. I think Mr. Collins touched on most of them, but not only is it a great sort of reciprocal relationship, we do what we can, but I know that there have been times where like, oh, can we run this class? It's only got X number of kids, and oh, look, there's some city kids. We can put them there. I mean, not to just turn your kids into numbers, but I think it just gives us more flexibility, right? And not only gives us more numbers, give us more flexibility, but also because they don't live in the district, we can place them where we need to place them, which also gives us even more flexibility. So I am in strong support of that. The early registration one, I mean, it probably makes sense. You both were on the committee and seem to think that this is where you landed. I think I mean, it's like you said, it's like pick your poison, right? There's one option is going to make it harder. And I just remember when Barron Park was continuing to shrink, one of the complaints that some of them had were, wait a minute, now we're down to one kinder, 3 families moved into the neighborhood. They can't, like, we can't grow our school because there's only one kindergarten class. And now those 3 kids, even though they live in the hood, have to go somewhere else, to some other hood, right? And so it makes it harder for some schools. What?
We'd swap them for city employees kids.
Right. So I'm just sort of mindful of that, right? And and families that moved here late, like you said, they moved here late. Like, great, we're going to move right next to Nixon. Like, oh, Nixon's full. You're going to Addison. What do you mean? We moved onto campus. We don't have a car. How on earth are we going to get to Addison, right? And I've seen that happen. And of course, that part of that is the declining enrollment. And what I should have said first is, I think the easiest solution for all this is for the city to build more housing. So I'm so glad that the city has to build 6,000 plus more units because, well, true, but I'm so glad that they have to find a way to make a plan for 6,000 more units plus to add, because that's what's really going to make a lot of this easier. We have so much more flexibility. Since we are the school board and we are not in charge of any of the housing issues, I will now come back to...
I warned him not to come. I told him, just...
I really meant to start with that, and I just got sidetracked by these other suggestions. So city employees and district employees, I think, like, fast track it, right? Get it for this fall. I think it'll be easier to make our placements if we've got those students. It also really, I think, helps kids stay in their neighborhood schools if we accept those 100 kids, right, across all 13 grades. Because if we're, okay, do we have 2 classes or 3 classes? We're right on the border. Is there enough for 3? Oh, look, we've got more kids. Right, so I think it's really beneficial to everybody. And the last one, I hesitate, but I defer to staff on that one. It's, like you said, pros and cons, and I wince at the cons, but clearly there are pros, and if it sounds like staff has been really, is kind of, the beginning of the school year, the week before school starts, is a frazzled time. It's exciting, but it's frazzled. And teachers are setting up their classrooms, and principals are super busy, and there's PD going on. And if suddenly you're finding out there's a last minute change, it's really hard. So I recognize that, and I don't, so whatever staff thinks on that, I'll say. Anything else? I think that's it for this, yes? 14 class. Yeah, TK. As I said 13, I was like, it might be 15 now. I don't even know. We keep going younger and younger. Okay, thank you so much to everybody on the committee, everything that you've done. Info items, I don't think we have, last I checked, there were no public comments, so I'm just gonna ask staff. I don't think there's anything controversial here. This is our usual standard items. Any comments on any of them? No? 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 Students? Mr. Darup? Okay.
Oh.
Oh, he's
No.
here, he's here. Go ahead.
I'm here.
Anything from our info items?
No.
Okay, great. Then we are going on to board operations. Ms. Siegel.
I'll be fast. Last week, I attended an equity workshop led by Dr. Gorski, and I want to give a shout out and thank you to Lana Conway for organizing and facilitating this workshop. It was wonderful to see so many educators, administrators, and staff all working together to support transformational equity, so thank you, Lana. I also want to give a shout out to Rachel Casey from PALI for organizing the 17th Annual Career Speaker Series. I was honored to have been invited to speak, and I want to thank Ms. Casey for inspiring not just your students, but also me, your board member, for your hard work, because that looked incredibly complex, so thank you. And my last shout out, he made me cry yesterday, is to Gunn High School Choir Director Bill Liberator, who's the recent recipient of this year's Tall Tree Award for Outstanding Professional. Yesterday, I had the opportunity of attending a Gunn choir performance and was overwhelmed, not just with their singing, but I was looking at Mr. Liberator, and he was my teacher back in the 90s, was one of the people who inspired me to go into teaching, and you look at him, and his smile is still as big, his eyes are still as wide, and the passion is still as strong. So I wish the choir the best time in New York, and I just want to thank him for inspiring me to become a high school teacher myself.
Okay, I'll pass it. Go.
I have really quick. I'm not sure if this is board operations or parent operations. It's kind of both. I attended the PAUSD parent education event last night with CHC. And the topic, which seems very apropos for tonight, was supporting your child's mental health amid academic and competitive pressures. It was a great presentation. The one thing I wanted to mention tonight is that the therapist grew up here, went to school here, was very familiar with all the pressures that our kids are under. And she challenged the parents listening that night. She said, be aware that this is a very high-achieving community, which means parents, you are very high-achieving. The families our children are coming from are very high-achieving. And you may be unintentionally putting pressures on your child that you aren't aware of. She said to us, ask your child, what pressures am I putting on you that I don't know about? What mistakes am I making as a parent that I don't realize I'm making? She said, just acknowledging to your child that you might not know and you might be making a mistake. She said, they may blow you off in the moment because that's what teenagers do. She said, but keep asking them and realize that just asking them means so much. So I am definitely taking that to heart as a parent.
Thanks. Mr. Collins? No, okay, my quick, also attended the equity workshop with Dr. Gorski. It was outstanding, thank you. And thanks to all the staff who made time to be at it and to continue to do this work. Both musicals closed last weekend. They were both amazing. And it was just a good, they were so good. They were both so good. And it was just such a good reminder that there are like thousands of people that it takes to make them happen, from staff to parents, volunteers, students, so many people to make them happen, and they were really fantastic. And my shout out, my builder tonight is for Justine Iongi, who is a trainer at PALI. And last week we had a student that got really hurt and we had to call the ambulance. And when the student was finally released from the hospital, one of the things they said was, your trainer did exactly the right thing. They responded this right way, they stabilized you the right way, they called the right way, they did everything right. And luckily that student is okay. But it was just a really good reminder that stuff happens sometimes, and it's really nice to have very skilled, calm, knowledgeable people on site, and she knocked it out of the park. So thank you. I believe this meeting is adjourned.